All right, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 World Tour. This would be episode number 28. We will be taking off from Bilbao, Spain. I'm pretty sure that's not how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it. And we will be flying west along the northern coast of Spain. And we're going to keep pushing west until we get to Portugal. And then once we're in Portugal, we're going to go down the coast all the way to the southern coast of Europe, and then start heading east along the Mediterranean coast. We will be listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show episodes from the past week. Now, the national news is not super happy, in my opinion, this past week with the election here in the United States. That I am very much against the results, but they are what they are. So listening to people talk about it will not be super fun. Bit of an embarrassing day for America, in my opinion, but we will just not talk about that today and try to focus on the escape of this little video game. So, here we go, from Bilbao onward to see more of the world in video game land. Off we go. So this is, as I record this, it's Saturday, November 9th, 2024, 8:55 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. I've got live weather and live time on. I think it's 2:55 or something like that, about 2 in the afternoon in Bilbao. And it doesn't look too bad. When the live weather image looked very cloudy, but this doesn't look too bad. We can handle this. And we are already heading west. See, we'll get to the coast if we keep on our line here, it looks like. But here is Bilbao, Spain. And if I ever get anyone from that area to actually watch this video, they will cringe at my mispronunciations of the cities, I'm very sure. But you know what, I'm the typical ignorant American. I've never been to Spain. I've been to Italy and Greece, and the United Kingdom, but never to Spain. And my Spanish is absolute garbage, even though I took 2 years in high school. As I record this, there's some college football obviously happening today. Alabama and LSU are tonight. That's where game day is at. That's the main game. College basketball season has started, thankfully, because Nebraska football has let me down once again. We are now 5-4 after losing to UCLA last weekend, who was, I believe, at the time 2-5. But UCLA actually did just beat Iowa last night in football, so UCLA just, I guess, randomly decided to start being pretty good. All the teams they've lost to are really good teams, I guess, except for Minnesota's just kind of good. But they seem to be better than Nebraska. They won in Lincoln, so it's hard to say that they're not better than Nebraska. Nebraska's got an off week this Saturday. We play at USC next Saturday. USC struggled almost as much as we have. I think they are 4-5 as opposed to our 5-4. So I suppose anything could happen, but I just have a feeling their athletes are going to be too much for us. Our offense has been pretty inept. We did just bring in Seth Holgerson, Dana Holgerson, sorry. I don't know where I got Seth. Dana Holgerson, former head coach of West Virginia, who's used to be anyway, a fairly good offensive mind. So our offense absolutely needs some help. We are very mediocre. Defense can look good, but can look terrible, obviously, against in the Indiana game, we just got absolutely roasted. Did pretty good in the Ohio State game. And the defense in the first half did not great at all against UCLA. The second half did better, but I think a lot of that was UCLA just trying to kill the clock, basically, and get out of Lincoln with the win. But we'll see how Nebraska does against USC next weekend. As I mentioned, basketball season has started. Nebraska beat Texas Rio Grande. I'm not sure their exact college name, but something along those lines, by 20. Creighton then just beat them by like 13 a couple nights ago, where Ryan Kalkbrenner had 49 points. Duke is 2-0. They've gotten 2 fairly easy wins, one against Army, and the opening game was against Maine. Cooper Flagg looked okay, kind of average in the first game. Second game he looked better, a little bit. But Con Knuppel, I think is how you say his name, is the freshman that has impressed me more after 2 games. I kind of had the game on, but wasn't really paying attention to it super closely last night. North Carolina played Kansas last night, and Kansas narrowly won. So I'm happy, of course, as a Duke fan, to see Carolina lose, but they looked impressive. To be that close at North Carolina, or excuse me, at Kansas is fairly impressive. So at least North Carolina lost, but they look to be pretty good again this year, as they usually are. We'll see how the Duke-Carolina games are later this year. Or not this year, but next year. So we got a little quarry there. Seems to be a little choppier than normal. I'm not entirely sure why. Not quite as smooth. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 now comes out in about 10 days, I think. About a week and a half. I do have a trip back to Nebraska / South Dakota right after it comes out. So I'm not sure I'll get it day one, because I just won't have time to use it for a while. But I definitely plan on getting it, and just praying that my system can at least run it this well. I don't need it to be perfect in amazing 4K clarity and buttery smooth frame rates or anything like that, but if it could run similar to this, I'd be happy with it. Now, I would love to do this series as a stream and not just videos, or we could get people in that would actually interact during the videos, but the live videos I've done, the wrestling videos, and I think I've tried baseball baseball as well, I get like nobody coming in to watch my videos, and that's understandable, because most of the time I'm not talking, so it's just gameplay, and that's not very exciting to watch. But it would be kind of neat to grow the channel that way. I'm not entirely sure people actually watch my videos, or any of my subscribers actually watch my videos. A lot of them, I think, have subscribed for whatever reason at some point, and then just kind of maybe watch one, or like a couple minutes of one every now and then, but that's about it. But it'd be cool to grow the channel a little bit. I don't put enough effort into it, obviously, to really grow it. You know, you need like the webcam and just be talking and interacting the whole time to really grow your channel, and I never do that. And I guess you just got to stick to it. Like there'd be probably a pretty long period of time when I'm doing videos where there's just no one in watching it, and you just talk to yourself the whole time. I struggle doing that. But we'll continue this flight. We'll probably go for a few hours. No real reason to end early. There's no Nebraska game I'm going to watch. It's hard to be super motivated to watch any college football when your team is kind of average or poor. But I'll probably check in on a few games. Got one college football game being recorded as I film this flight on my Everyday is Saturday channel. I'm trying to do every single college football game, at least in Division I, on that channel, and that of course takes a lot of time. Otherwise, pretty low-key Saturday for me. It is a 3-day weekend. We've got Veterans Day off, but then at work right after that, starting on Tuesday, really more on Wednesday and Thursday, we've got a board of directors meeting at the place I work at, and I need to make sure everything runs smoothly for that. So that is a bit stressful, but it may be fine. We'll see. This is kind of my first time being involved with it. So far, it seems to be going okay, but, I'm fully expecting some stupid headaches to pop up that I did not anticipate. We'll see how it goes. And I've about run out of things to talk about. That's why a chat would be helpful. But I suppose now we can just get into the Tony Kornheiser show. We will start with Monday's episodes. That'll be before the election, before the result that I am not a huge fan of. That was, let's see, today's the 9th, so 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th. I believe it was, Monday, November 4th will be the first episode we listen to, and then we'll get into Wednesday, November 6th, and then finally Friday, November 8th. We should be able to get through all of them on this tank of gas that we're on now at 95%. We should be able to fly for quite a while with that. So let me cue up the Monday, November 4th episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Hey, it's Tony. On today's show, we'll talk to Michael Wilbon about drive times between various cities. We'll also talk to Chuck Culpepper, who's in Happy Valley for the Buckeyes win over Penn State. But first, as always, kids, commerce.
Worried about letting someone else pick on your first 3 orders? Well, you at your DSW store or DSW.com. Previously on the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Okay, how about killing moths? And they said, yeah, we can do that. So I made an appointment. But the kicker on the story is, to fix the sweater, a $50 sweater, $50, the great joy of my life, $95. To fix the sweater.
You're getting close to the list price.
So, I'm going up the ladder, exactly, up the ladder to list. That's exactly what's happening. Eventually, this sweater will cost me $250 to fix, and then I'll just stick my head through one of the holes.
The Tony Kornheiser Show is on now.
So the moth person, I don't know if it's man or woman, the moth person from American Pest is supposed to be here on Wednesday. And I have a dog. And if they're going to set off some smoke bomb in my house to kill these moths, how's that going to affect my dog?
Yeah, Jesse.
I don't know about it. I am now beginning to be concerned about what their treatment for moths is. There are certain areas where I keep my clothing. I think they should treat those areas. I don't think they have to treat the whole house. Because I don't care if there's a moth in the living room. I don't care. I care if there's a moth where my sweaters are, my woolen sweaters. That's what I care about. Or my woolen suits that are going to go to Michael and his sons.
Protect the suits.
That's what I care about. That's what I care about. And I don't want some...
I think if you can live in the house, the dog will be okay.
But that's what I assume it is, right? A smoke bomb?
It's Agent Orange.
Isn't that what you think it will be? They're not going to kill them individually. There's no such thing as a moth trap.
Maybe they do it like the FBI does when there's a hostage situation. They play really bad music at a loud volume.
I don't know. So, that's what I worry about. I played a lot of golf this weekend. I got worse. I was so bad yesterday.
Glad I gave you that tea time.
I was so bad yesterday. I shot, if I kept real score, I didn't cheat, and sometimes just give myself a double.
And for handicap purposes.
55 on the front. 55. I didn't break 100 yesterday. 55 on the front. Come on now. I played this course 3,000 times. 55 on the front. I enjoyed myself. At one point, I said I was...
putting well.
I am putting very well. At one point, I said that I was going to call Greg Garcia and collaborate on a show called Bad Golf, Nice People. Because I really enjoyed what I played with. I played with Tom Hoffman, played with Steve Rose, played with Scott Sadler. Hit the 5-wood pretty good here and there. Didn't top it too often. Probably will get it. On 18, I hit a good drive, and I was about 160 out. And I hit a really good 5-wood that landed in the trap in the middle, but if it had gone right or left, I had a chance to be on the green. So, I hit it pretty well. But I was terrible. It's really...
Is this going to jeopardize your spot on the Ryder Cup team?
Just awful. I was wearing my Ryder Cup sweater though, that Alex sent me. So I was happy with that. Cashmere hasn't been eaten yet by moths. Not yet by moths. Then I came back and watched TV. They all say, well, what do you have to do today? And I say, I just have to be back by 3 o'clock to 3:15 for the witching hour. And I got back, and there were games, and these are not necessarily great teams like Tennessee and New England and Carolina and New Orleans and Buffalo and Miami, which are better teams, and they all went down to the wire. They were really exciting. They were really good to watch, so I was happy with that. Now, I watch Red Zone, so I'm not just focused on Washington. Washington's good. For the first time in 30 years, Washington's actually good. They're not bandwagon. Yeah, 7-2. They're not bandwagon good. Bandwagon team's a great team. You knew right away they were a Super Bowl contending team and indeed won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, bandwagon team's one of the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah, they lost 2 games by a total of about 5 points. No, they're a great team. Yeah. So this is not a great team, but it's much better than we've been used to, and better even than I think anybody thought. Jaden Daniels is better.
He's just so
advertised.
He is so composed. It's why they go for it every time it's fourth, and anything under 5, go for it. And he changes speed so well to get to the outside.
It's really good. He's really good.
And the second half, you got to watch. It looks like he has something with McLaurin, where he had 2 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah,
He's
Terry
thrown into small windows.
Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin.
It is scary.
Came in the year of or the year after Chase Young from Ohio State. Close.
Yeah, it's like right around that.
And Chase Young's a bust. He was a bust. He did a whole lot of commercials. Did Mercedes-Benz commercials. He was a bust. He's still a bust. He's in the league. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like he's on his 3rd or 4th team. And really, who cares? And Terry McLaurin's good.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin's good. So yesterday, I realized that the Breeders' Cup was on Saturday. I realized this yesterday.
Yesterday's Sunday.
I understand. So as a result of that, I wanted to see who won. I wanted to see if the horse George Mallet talked about won. It was not in the Breeders' Cup Classic, which is the number 1 race. And so I went into my phone and I got to Google and I wrote in Breeders' Cup results 2024.
Good search terms.
Right. And I got Breeders' Cup Classic. I got a bunch of things. And not only did I get the results of the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I guess this happens to people on the internet, because I don't go on the internet very much, because as I've said to you 1,000 times, it's the worst thing that ever happened to the world. The internet doesn't mean there aren't good things. It'll tell you how to cook a brisket. It's fine. But it'll inundate you with lunacy and TikTok and meanness and polarization and all bad things. All bad things. So it should be outlawed. Anyway. They have. I don't know how this works, but they'll be giving a result of the Breeders' Cup Classic, and then they'll have random comments by people with their pictures and their names. They're not real names, and it'll just go on. I don't want that.
This is at the top of the search?
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in them.
Did you see small letters AI in front of it? It was not for Anthony Irwin?
I don't know.
Okay, because sometimes when you do these searches, you're going to get artificial intelligence will give you an answer. Populate a lot of answers and predict future questions that might be related to what you're thinking.
Pocus junk. And I couldn't find all the races. I couldn't. I could only find the Classic or maybe one other. And I wasn't interested in going down the line with it for any great length of time. So I don't know if George Mallet's horse, the one he touted, won. That was not in the Breeders' Cup Classic, which was won by Sierra Leone, a horse I'm familiar with because Sierra Leone raced in at least 2, maybe all 3 of the Triple Crown races. But it got me to thinking, and I wrote things down. And I wrote down, you want to know what sport doesn't exist anymore? Horse racing. It doesn't exist. There's no mention of the Breeders' Cup on ESPN on the webpage. There's no mention of it. 0. There's no mention of it in the Washington Post online. 0. Nothing. They don't have the betting franchise anymore. And when they have no special quality horse racing. They have the Triple Crown, which gets great numbers. The Kentucky Derby outrates the NBA Game 7 final. Great numbers. And that's it. Then there's the Preakness. And if it's not the same horse that wins, the Belmont goes down by 40%. And that's it. The Breeders' Cup Day at the races is the fourth biggest event in the sport. Brings in a tremendous amount of money. I don't know what it does in terms of ratings, but it has been ignored by ESPN. It was ignored. It was ignored by the Washington Post online. I'll bet it's ignored by most papers online.
So based on these highs that you're mentioning with TV and with the Triple Crown, it's a bigger decline in coverage and attention than with boxing?
I was just about to say, it's the same as boxing.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. These were giant sports all the way into the 1980s. All the way into the 80s. It's not that long ago, the 1980s. They don't exist anymore. Boxing is nonsense. Like, you don't know what's boxing anymore, because most of it is that kickboxing.
MMA.
That junk. Right. Most of it is that bestiality that should be outlawed. It's awful. And so it doesn't exist. You don't know. Nobody knows who the heavyweight champion of the world is. You don't know who he is. You can't name his name. Nobody knows.
It's not Joe Frazier?
It's not Joe Frazier. No, it's not Joe Frazier. It's over. Nobody knows. And it's over for horse racing. It's over. I believe horse racing has to do with betting, because you can bet on anything now. So there's no special quality of horse racing. Why would you watch it? Why would you watch it? Just because it's exciting and fun. But if you never saw it, you really wouldn't miss anything.
Yeah,
You wouldn't miss it.
And look, I'm not a guy that goes to the track. On the few occasions that I have,
It's fun.
It's a fun day.
It's fun.
And it's great to see the horses, and it's great to lay a couple of dollars down, and it's a nice day.
And it's over.
And that stuff,
It's over.
they won't even do that on barges off the coast of the country. It's just
From
gone.
the 1920s to the 1970s, baseball, horse racing, and boxing were the three biggest sports. By the 1970s, football had come up. And they had started, everything else was eroding, and football was beginning to dominate. Now football is amazingly dominant.
Yeah.
But those two sports, baseball is not dead, because baseball just had a real good run in the playoffs in terms of ratings. And that's how you tell who's watching, how many people are watching, do they care? Do they care? Well, if they cared about horse racing, you'd be able to read about it somewhere. Is it not on the website? I looked around, and maybe I didn't press the right button, but at the top of the website, there's a bunch of sports, horse racing not being one of them. I went all the way down the line. I couldn't find anything.
Do we remember what the horse's name that George recommended to us?
No, it was two names. It was two words.
Not Torpedo Anna?
No, Torpedo Anna was Kenny's horse.
Yeah, that one.
That one in the distaff?
That was the Distaff, yep.
Yeah.
Rebels Romance in the Cup Turf, Sierra Leone, as you said, in the Classic.
No.
Moira in the Filly and Mare Turf.
No, that's not the race.
Straight No Chaser, the Sprint.
No,
More Than Looks, the Cup Mile, and the Dirt Mile Full Serrano.
that's it. Dirt Mile.
Dirt Mile Full Serrano?
No, I don't think so. Vinny Serrato? Vinny Serrato won in the Dirt Mile?
But where we have
So I don't know what to say. I mean, it's
baseball lost a generation of fans with steroids, with strike years, and you're getting a lot of younger fans back now. And I think with horse racing, you lost a generation when it came to abuse and drugs with horses.
there's no reason to go. There's no reason. It's just you can, I don't know. They made it easy to bet without going, so people don't even have to go.
Yeah.
And if you don't go, if there's no crowd and you're at an event, you go, what am I doing here?
I got a horse.
Yeah, right here. His name is Paul Revere. You say if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do. Michael Wilbon, when we return, I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Etsy read. Etsy knows what kind of holiday gifting reactions you're looking for this year. You want squeals of delight, happy tears, and spontaneously written songs of joy, right? Well, to get reactions like those, you need to make sure everyone on your list feels heard with handmade, hand-picked, and designed gifts from small shops on Etsy. Etsy makes it so simple to find original items that will make whoever you're shopping for feel extra special. When they open that box, it will be love at first gift. It's a good line. The kind of love you can only get when a gift is truly thoughtful and perfect for that person. Shop Etsy this holiday season for personalized jewelry, custom artwork, cozy style items, vintage pieces, and home decor to celebrate all of your favorite people and their specific kind of special. For original gifts that say, I get you, Etsy has it.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show. Tony Kornheiser Show.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video. This Thursday, it's a Halloween treat as the Houston Texans visit the New York Jets. Join Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung for this exciting matchup. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party, TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon, live from New York. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial and you can cancel at any time. It's the Texans and Jets at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Michael Cranberry has sent us stuff.
Cranberry, yes.
I said Cranberry because I think everybody probably called him Michael Cranberry his whole life.
I'll bet that was the nickname he had. Yeah.
Sure.
He provides the
Greatest
music in the
I'm sending you two songs from the incredibly talented Lucy Koplansky, whose work you first played back in 2022. I'm sending you two more of Lucy's exquisite ballads in hopes that you mention her upcoming show at Jam and Java, Vienna, Virginia, on Sunday night, November 10th. That is this coming Sunday night. I'm hoping a bunch of littles show up to wish Lucy well. Her life experience has taken her from her hometown of Chicago to New York and a doctorate in clinical psychology, which led her initially to a career as a psychotherapist. But Lucy yearned to return to a life of music, and since 1994, she's recorded more than 10 studio albums. Her most recent album, Last Days of Summer, drew praise from Scott Simon of National Public Radio, said, utterly beautiful and affecting. Lucy sings songs from her life that have resonance in ours. This is called Just You Tonight. And she's great.
It's beautiful.
Everybody Michael Cranberry sings is great. They're all great. She plays in Michael Wilbon. So, an up and down weekend for you in the sense that Northwestern won and the Bears lost. Talk about them in any order you want. Northwestern beat Purdue, right?
Yeah, that was. Look, Tony, when you win a game on the road in your conference, you hope to beat the teams you should beat. And Purdue had won its opening game against, Indy, IUPUI. It wasn't IUPUI, but somebody like that.
Right.
And they've lost every Big Ten game since. So we need to overtime to beat them. It's not going to be something that we send out a resume tape with.
Right.
But I'm glad we won. I'm glad we won on the road at Purdue after being 17-3 and nearly sort of gave it away. But so that was that, which nobody in your listener should range would care about unless you grew up in the Midwest. But everything was put into, because of what happened last week, it would have been put into it anyway. Everything in the Midwest, in Chicago, was put into the Bears and hoping they could recover from Hail Mary, and they didn't. I didn't believe they would. In my confidence pool, I picked Arizona to win the game. First of all, Arizona's pretty good. They're in first place in their division. If the Bears had won last week, I would have felt very differently about going into the game. But my concern about the Bears wasn't yesterday's game. It was looking to see specifically, can they rally? Can they recover? Can they emotionally recover from something that a lot of teams would not? You and I have been in a lot of locker rooms in our lives, and we know when teams are without their spirit. It doesn't mean you're questioning their effort. You're questioning whether they can play with any spirit. And that franchise was playing with some in a 3-game winning streak, and last week we should have been a 4th straight game won. And they didn't have that yesterday. They got popped. The Bears had not given up 21 points. They had the longest streak in the league. In the NFL, two streaks the Bears owned yesterday. Most consecutive home victories, which they still won because they watch on the road.
Yeah.
And most consecutive games without giving up more than 21 points, which says something about your defense and your consistency and what the coaching staff is doing and how well prepared they are. It says something about all that, to have that streak when you're not a great team yet. And they got popped. And again, Arizona, the word material, people don't even use it anymore. I don't know what it means. But Arizona, the Cardinals give you 3-4 games in a row and they look like they're Detroit. And then they'll give you 3-4 games in a row and they look like Carolina. And so the Bears were going to get that other team. I think the Cardinals had not beaten the Bears in Arizona in like 20-some years. The Bears win routinely. It's a home game. It's people don't understand what the desert is when they live here in the Mid-Atlantic. Your listeners are more vast than that. But when you live in the Valley, when you're from the Midwest, you understand that the Valley is the Midwest transplanted. It's not just Chicago. It's Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois. It's all of that. That is the Valley. And so when the Packers show up there, when the Bears show up there, when the Vikings show up there, it's 70% in Arizona for those teams. So they were going to be up for that. Yes, they're trying to get their butts rubbed in it, faces rubbed in it by the Bears in Arizona, and they reversed it. And the Bears, I told you last week, that playing Hail Mary is going to cost Eberflus his job.
I know, you said that.
And it is. Because they look like a 6-11 team to me now. That's the spirit. Now, can they rally? Do I hope they rally? Yes, I hope they do. I hope they can find something. I hope he can find something. He seems like a really nice guy and a good coach in a lot of ways. But is he a head coach for this team at this time? I don't know.
Okay, all right. We watched the NFL now has a lot of teams that are like 6-2 and better, and a lot of teams that are 2-6 and worse. There's very little in the middle. The conference, the division you just mentioned, has 4 teams in the middle, the NFC West, but most of them don't. Most of them really don't. And I don't know what to make of Washington. I'm afraid to say this. I think they're good.
I'm not afraid. They're good.
Yeah, they're good.
To me, the 2 best teams in the NFC
Detroit's the best
today are the Lions without question and the Commanders. Those
Really?
2 best teams in the NFC. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
How do you work at it? You work at it.
I know, but it's
you draft good players. This is the NBA where you have to have like a player that's transcendent to become a challenge. This is not that league. This is the NFL where every season divisions flip. This is not uncommon. It's not surprising. It's not bewildering. It happens every season. And this season, it seems like it's the turn of a team that had missed its turn for 25 years.
Yeah.
Bad ownership and leadership. So, but no, this is not that franchise anymore. We knew this last year. Not that the record was going to flip immediately, but you knew the reason the town felt differently was because the ownership is different. It is.
Yeah, but now it feels differently on the field because the quarterback is different. The quarterback's really
good.
good.
Go get players.
He's really good.
They're not going to play the game. They got a guy who's the rookie of the year in the NFL and one of the 5 or 6 players in discussion for MVP.
I won't say no to that. I think that's true. I think it's true. I really do. Did you, by the way, we're going to have Chuck Culpepper on later, and he was there. Did you watch Penn State, Ohio State? You're a Big Ten guy. What'd you think of it?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think?
It is all. I ran my mouth off Friday and said I thought Penn State would win because it really did. I don't think Ohio State's that kind of powerful team this year. I think a lot of pressure is on Ryan Day, and it is. I thought the game being at Penn State would matter. I thought that, this is Penn State's time. They got a good enough team. The quarterback was going to be relatively healthy and out there. And I just thought this is the time for Penn State. And, it was a close game. It was a winnable game for Penn State. They're not bold enough. And I don't know. And Penn State never really has been bold. Even when they were great under Joe Paterno, they were never a particularly bold team. And they seem to play with that personality, which is sort of a flatline personality. I don't care how many people you put in the building, 110,000. They look like Penn State to me. And that's sort of like really, really, really good, but not great.
So we talked about this yesterday.
Be their time for that.
I'll tell the people who are listening. You and I had this discussion yesterday, and I said, if you're Penn State and you have won national championships before with Joe Paterno, and you want to win another national championship, which would be the reason you joined the Big Ten, because it's a national championship provider. You get a chance. You win the Big Ten, you have a chance to win the national championship. If that's how you define yourself, if you're Penn State, you got to get rid of James Franklin because he can't beat the good teams. It's not over a 3-year period. It's over a 10-year period. He doesn't beat the good teams. And you said you're not sure that Penn State defines itself that way.
No, I'm not. I'm not sure many teams can say what they want publicly. People can, athletic directors and presidents can trot out. That's not the reality, Tony. People join the Big Ten to make money, and they make it. A lot of it. That's why they join. Why do you think Maryland joined?
Money.
You think, you think they joined to?
Well, they don't belong here. They don't.
Okay, belonging. That that's great for you to say. And I believe it too, because I don't even believe Penn State belongs. And they've been in it longer than Maryland and Rutgers now.
Yeah.
But no, Penn State won a couple with Joe Paterno over a lot of years in which people thought that he didn't win enough. Let's be
That's
clear
right.
about this now.
That's right.
So because before they belonged to the Big Ten, they were independent, and I drove up there to Nittanyville quite a bit, and I think I have an understanding of what they do and what they are, and they're a community that wants to play the highest level of football they can play, and they're not Texas A&M, and they're not going to fire a coach and raise money and give $1 billion because they didn't win the championship this year. That's not who they are. That's how Texas A&M defines itself, and that's how half the SEC defines itself, maybe more than half. But I hear you, Tone. I hear the observation you're making, but I don't think Penn State is that place. I think Penn State quite happy might be the wrong word. They're fulfilled being Penn State. And you say beat the good teams, Tony, it's only 2 teams. It's Ohio State and Michigan.
That's right.
I'm not talking about starting going forward. I'm talking about the history.
That's right. And they don't beat
those who else beats them.
I don't think anybody else beats them. That's why they win national championships.
That's right.
That's why they
won them. Because they haven't won any either. Michigan hadn't won. Jim Beckman never won a national championship.
Well, Ohio State.
This is sort of overstated. And Ohio State, what's Ohio State won? Like lately, in the last 15, 20. Ohio State wasn't.
Urban Meyer won. He won.
Sure. I'm saying in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, Urban Meyer.
But so is Penn State. Their whole mission, are they going to fire the bottom line? Are they going to get rid of James Franklin, who's a really good coach and a fine man by all measures that matter at a university? Are they going to fire him to look for a guy who might win them a few more games? Might. And might beat Michigan and Ohio State? No, they're not. Not in my opinion.
Okay. Let me move on to one other thing that we will not get to at any other time.
Okay.
Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid now has turned on the city. He's shoved a columnist. I read what the columnist wrote. It seemed perfectly reasonable to me. Perfectly reasonable. And Joel Embiid's in a bad way because people are challenging.
All right, quick break from the podcast while I look up what uniforms Bowling Green and Akron wore in their football game. Because I need it to be fully accurate on my little video game recording, of course. Sit through a 30-second ad here, of course. As we're flying over the northern coast of Spain. Beautiful countryside here and cliffs. This Cobreses is coming up. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right, as always. Still waiting for the ad. Here we go. All right. Should be able to get video of the game. It looks like Bowling Green is in all white. Okay. All white versus navy, and gold. All right. Let's go back to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
His desire to play, and he's saying, no, I have desire to play. Stop it. And over a couple of 100 miles away in Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think, he's a coach killer. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He may be a team killer as well. He's probably better off leaving. Would you make that trade if you were both teams?
No, if I'm Philadelphia, I make it.
Yeah.
Because I think Giannis
could play more.
Even though he hasn't been held, he didn't want to playoff games since the championship in 2021.
Wow.
But can you make that trade if you're Milwaukee? I don't know that you can. You brought up somebody. Give you credit. You brought up somebody on Tuesday or Wednesday of last week that immediately I had not thought of, and I think you may be onto something. And that's Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
If I'm Dallas, I might get involved. They got young bigs who are not young. But if Milwaukee's going to make the deal, and there are people in the league who believe Milwaukee will make the deal, and make a deal involving Giannis by the trade deadline, that seems to be, they won one game, Tony, and you know who they beat?
No.
They beat Philadelphia without Joel Embiid. I was there.
Well, yeah.
Look, I was in Philly, the opener for that game.
Is this going to end badly for Embiid in Philadelphia?
It's starting to take on that. The other reason you can't trade him, Tony, is because you drafted and developed, properly so, a terrific player and young kid and young star in Tyrese Maxey. Okay? And the city, and by the way,
It's his birthday.
the opposite is that Maxey.
He's happy birthday. Yeah, I wrote the happy birthday on him. Yeah.
Okay. Maxey is everything you'd want in a franchise.
Yep.
If you're a franchise draft him, you say, that kid, I want him. How do we link up with that kid? Okay? They got him. And then they went out and they attracted Paul George.
Who hasn't played?
And George's history is, I'm not going to say sort of like him because George has played.
He's played
playoff games in
Yes,
his life.
sure.
He is not cashed in, but he's been in conference finals. You know, he's been in some big games in his life. And by the way, Paul George is just extremely fun to be around. I've been around him. I like him very much. And I like Embiid. I've had this conversation with Embiid last year. When he was on our set, I said, he said, why did you say I shouldn't play in the Olympics? I said, because I just want to see you get healthy. I just want to see you able to play, physically able to pursue a championship coming.
Yeah, you may want to reward the people who are paying your salary. You may want to do
That's what I said to him, and he wasn't, by the way, Tony, I've not seen any surly Joel Embiid. I haven't. You know, I'm around him. I cover this league. I haven't.
I'm not saying he's surly. I'm saying he went over a line that's a bad line to go over.
He may, yes, and he yes. I mean, and I don't know. We know Philly. Look, last week when I got to Philadelphia on Wednesday morning for the opener, a week ago, the whole town was crazed at 5 a.m. I landed on the red eye from Phoenix, and it was as if no one had slept in the 215, as they were waiting in the weeds to take a swing at Embiid because he wasn't playing in the opener, and they didn't know why. And you know Philly. I mean, if they're down on you,
Yeah, it's hard to come back.
Hard to come back.
It's hard to come back.
The trade you mentioned, like, may each of those franchises have to get rid of that guy? Maybe, but Tony, Joel Embiid makes so much money, and now he's going to play 50 games back.
I know, it's just, it's a really,
back if you're Milwaukee.
it's a really bad look. It lands on Embiid. You could land it on the owner. You could land it on the GM. It lands on Embiid. And it's no good. It's really no good. And this was a guy who was really well liked and had said all the right things. You don't turn around and use the phrase effing city. You don't do that. And you did it more than once.
Not there. While you're not playing,
Not there.
people don't understand it. And Boston and the Knicks and even other teams in the East, I know Orlando's got an injured star right now. There are teams that are popping up and they're saying, let's go.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good right now. There's a long time. You got a long time.
The first week, we're 1 week in.
But this is a guy who averages 54 games a year, making over $1 million a game.
54, he ain't getting within a whip of 54 this year.
No.
And within shouting distance of that. And so that, Tony, will be something that is revisited. And the Giannis thing, in some ways, is worse because you thought you had a wider window. They kept people and re-signed people and went about the business.
He fired 2 coaches already. He fired Budenholzer and he fired Griffin. Fired 2 already.
He got Adrian Griffin. He
Fired.
specifically got Adrian Griffin hired.
And then fired. So,
and then got him fired.
It's not.
It is accurate. It is not an exaggeration.
Can't be good.
And and Milwaukee is a forgiving place.
Yeah.
Milwaukee's not Philly.
That's
it's
right.
the absolute polar opposite of Philly. And people aren't going to boo there, and they're not going to be unhappy, and they're not going to be short on patience. They're not. And yet, you look at this, if you're management there, you go, wait a minute, we're going to pay this guy on the back end $60 million, and he can't play. And by the way, but let me just hold on for a second. Have you seen what Giannis has done so far this season? He's putting up enormous
numbers.
MVP-like
Big
He's
numbers.
out there to show people.
But they're not winning.
And they're not
They're not winning. It doesn't,
And the star in the NBA, the star takes the ball for that.
Gotta win.
Historically,
Yes.
righteously.
100%.
I mean,
All right.
that's the culture. So, man.
Yeah. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, Tom.
Michael Wilbon, boys and girls, we'll take a break. Chuck Culpepper, who was at Penn State, Ohio State, will join us when we return. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Rosetta Stone, Reed. Are you looking to learn a new language? Maybe like me, you're planning to go bungee jumping off of bridges all over the world, and you want to be able to talk to the locals before you go. If that's the case, then you want to use Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program, which is available on desktop or as an app, and it's the program that truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. Rosetta Stone has been a trusted expert for 30 years with millions of users, and 25 languages offered like Portuguese, Korean, Dutch, many more, utilizing fast language acquisition. Rosetta Stone immerses you in many ways. There are no English translations, so you really learn to speak, listen, and think in that language. Plus, it's convenient with desktop and app options and an audio companion that gives you the ability to download lessons offline. Best of all, it's amazing value. Lifetime membership has all 25 languages for any and all trips and language needs in life. It's normally a $399 program, but with our code, you can get it just for $199. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a very limited time, our listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% at rosettastone.com/Tony today.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Collars & Co. read. They sent me 3 shirts.
Oh, that's right.
They were really pretty.
Yes.
I have not yet worn them. I haven't. You need to wear them under a sweater. I mean, if you're going to go out, you can't wear them under a vest because they are short sleeves. I mean, you can, but the whole purpose is to wear them under a sweater. And I haven't worn them yet. And I was looking.
Avoid that bunch.
Yes. I don't have that many sweaters anymore. That, the traditional either V-neck or crew neck sweater, which
The crew neck
on top of which they're going to look great.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Under which, rather, not the sweater would be on top. But I haven't gotten to that yet. And I look at them and they're really
How do
nice.
they feel?
They feel great.
Yeah,
They're really nice.
Nice colors.
The Tattersall in particular I really like. Are you tired of uncomfortable dress shirts and shirts that bunch up under a sweater? You really have to check out Collars & Co., maker of the Dress Collar Polo. Their shirts are 4-way stretch. They're buttery soft polos with firm dress collars on them. So they give you the dress shirt look, but with the extremely comfortable polo feel. It means you can wear them with anything. Under a sweater, with a blazer, or by themselves as an elevated polo. I love the notion of elevated polo. It used to be the word was upgrade, but upgrade got so common that it's now elevated. They're great for the office, the golf course, or for a night out. The collars don't flop down and spread out. They stay firm and sharp all day. So if you're looking for a performance dress shirt or polo that looks great all day, check out collarsandco.com and use the promo code TONY for 15% off any purchase of $100 or more. That's a good deal. That's a good deal. Use the code.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show. The Tony Kornheiser Show.
Once again, this is Lucy Koplansky, who was a psychotherapist, has a doctorate, and was a psychotherapist, and realized at some point, I can do this other thing.
Yeah.
I can sing.
Really
Let me
good.
sing. It's called Broken Things. Michael, if people like Lucy Koplansky want to have their music played on this particular show, what do they do?
Send us music by emailing it to jingles@TonyKornheiserShow.com.
She plays in Chuck Culpepper, as we said with Wilbon. Chuck Culpepper was at Penn State, Ohio State. And they fail again. They fail again. And your lead is brilliant. Well, essentially what you say is, most of these people in the whiteout, they didn't even wait around to the end. They left a little bit early. What were you, when you started to see that, what did you think?
I thought, this is, one of the giant programs of all time here. All our 155 years of college football history. And while it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a majority of fans, it was a large procession out to the ramps, and those ramps that kind of curl downstairs from the upper deck to get you to the ground and to your car, and their team was still in it. If they had gotten one stop there and made Ohio State punt, they were down 20-13, and I just thought, my goodness, they've seen this plot so many times now that they know what's going to happen. They absolutely know what's going to happen, and they're weary. They're weary.
I'm not going to use the word choke. I'm not saying that at all, specifically avoiding it. But you're at home. You didn't even get a touchdown, an offensive touchdown. You didn't even get an offensive touchdown. You've waited for this game. You're undefeated. You're ranked third, and you're at home, and you did not get a touchdown, Joe.
Yes, and I do think Ohio State's better. Not by much, but it's a better team, I think. But yeah, that's a statement right there, and it's a statement of sort of how it's similar to me to when Michigan went in there last year and spent the second half only running the ball, all running plays, and it just said something that probably strikes at the core of the Penn State identity in a way, which is that these teams have come in here 2 years in a row and out-muscled us, and that's not who we consider ourselves to be, and that's not, that's daunting in a deep way.
Let me take the larger view here, and I did this with Wilbon a few minutes ago, and everybody who's listened has already heard his answer. I won't spoil it for you by telling you. But you are Penn State, as they like to say. We are Penn State. And you've won national championships. And you joined the Big Ten to, I think, make it easier to qualify for a national championship. Only Notre Dame hasn't really joined a conference officially yet because they got their own television deal and they don't need to. But if you define yourself, football is your sport. It's not basketball, never has been basketball, it's football. You want to win a national championship. If that's what you want, I don't see how you keep James Franklin. This is not Ryan Day, who's had bad luck for 5 years. It's 10 years. He doesn't beat anybody. He doesn't beat anybody good. Do they have to change coaches or not?
I think it's one of the hardest ones to call, and we see it around in college football from time to time. It's one of those, okay, if they did it, you'd say, all right, I get it. We want to go up that extra notch or two that we're not doing right now. But then the chances, once you do it, are bigger of having somebody who comes in and can't handle it even as well as he can, because it is a lot to handle. It is a job that's a lot to handle. So we see these equations sometimes around college football where a guy has, 85 and 41, I think it is, 86 and 41, and that's good, and it's very good, but it's not as good as you think you should be. So that starts to get into where alums tend to have delusions, and maybe this is it for them, and you bring up the Big Ten is around the mid-90s where they got in, and it hasn't been the same since then in terms of, all along that way, in terms of being in the national championship discussion, and even with, Paterno is still there, and so I think this is one of those that is so hard to call and so tricky that, I think kind of, if you're 1 and 10 against Ohio State, and I think he's gone 3 and 7 or 8 against Michigan. I think if you make the call based on just that, then it's probably justified, but I would wonder what was coming next. Yeah, I think it could actually decline.
There are 2 cautionary words, and those words are Brian Kelly, who who left Notre Dame to go win a national championship with a sudden Southern accent that he developed overnight at LSU, and he's done poorly, relatively speaking, for LSU, right? He's done poorly, I think.
It is exactly the same. He's very good in terms of, if you look at the winning percentage, right after the decimal, the next three numbers, whatever it is there is I'm sure very good by most standards, but not by the LSU standard. I think, they were rolling along 6 wins in a row until a couple of Saturdays ago when Texas A&M beat them, and I'm sure that this week heading into that Alabama game, which is always, this big festival of contempt that they have, every year, I'm sure that there's a whole lot of groaning because even while LSU, if you look across the seasons, someone like Penn State, you're going to find that it's not always in that championship talk, but the people think that it should be. So, yeah, that's a direct parallel.
Yeah. So Penn State was undefeated. They're no longer undefeated. Pittsburgh was undefeated, no longer undefeated, loses to SMU, I believe. SMU, my favorite school. No, you don't have to give us any money. No, don't worry. We got money. Just let us in the door. Iowa State, I think, was undefeated, right? Have lost, but
that's right.
Oregon keeps being undefeated, and Indiana keeps being undefeated and scoring 40 points each week. What do you make of Indiana?
I think it's just, I keep going back to, I guess it's 2 seasons ago now. TCU was in the title game, and there was this kind of point that Sonny Dykes, their coach, made, and it kind of went by, and what it just really struck me is that you're going to see more of this because the transfer portal especially has enabled teams to build themselves quickly, and then the other teams, who lose the transfers have to adapt to that. More turbulence. So I think that makes things, this season has really just floored me in terms of the last 5 unbeaten teams are, I think it's Miami, Indiana, Army, Oregon, and I'm missing one, but it's a motley crew. It's not anything to what you would expect. Michigan has 4 losses, Southern California has 5, and I just think, SMU has a loss, but anyway, it's surprising, and it's kind of the freshness that's around it because we're expecting it to become more and more tilted toward the big guys. And so I think, that it's just a statement of how things are, move very, very quickly, more than they used to.
There were 2 things that were confounding to me. Georgia almost lost. Georgia almost lost. That's not the first time this year. They have lost, and then they almost lost another game, and now they almost lost this game. And Clemson, I didn't expect that. I thought Clemson was sailing. I didn't expect that.
And it has become that season where once you sort out something like that, Clemson being an example, another is Texas A&M. The minute that we think that if they beat LSU, they've got only 1 loss, they're headed toward that game with Texas on November the 30th, where the 2 of them haven't played each other in 13 years, and it's just going to be so big and loud. And then they go to South Carolina and lose 44-20, and the fans storm the field. So, yeah, it's just every time, or not every time, but a lot of times when you think something, this is kind of one of those years where, the assumption turns out to be shaky.
So 2 teams, to me, Oregon is undefeated in the Big Ten. Indiana is undefeated in the Big Ten. I don't know that they will play each other. But before the season started, I thought to myself, it's impossible to be undefeated this year. It's impossible. The conferences are too big. Then you have to have a championship game. Then you have to go through the playoffs. It's impossible. And now I don't know if it's impossible, right? I'm not certain it's impossible now.
I tend to think it's still impossible, although Oregon is the one who could buck that. And Indiana's going into Ohio State on November 23rd, which is suddenly, really deliciously interesting, I'd say. And what you were thinking in preseason is certainly true when you look at the SEC, because none of their teams are on that list, and so and they're the Alabama LSU game always crucial to both.
are kind of taking on losses all around. Could there be a 3-loss team that gets into
I think it's possible.
12-team playoff?
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out.
I think it's possible at this point. By the way, just let me compliment you on the piece on Mike Gundy. Now, Mike Gundy is not a likable fellow as far as I'm concerned, but you wrote a piece, and the question is going to be, how did you find out about this? You wrote a piece that Mike Gundy does a weekly radio show at a retirement home. It's just a fabulous piece. It's so warm and nice and good on every level. How did you find out about that, and was there any trepidation? Did you think maybe they wouldn't let you do that story?
Well, thank you so much, first off. And there were early wire stories on it this season, mentioning it, and there were photos showing the residents of the retirement village sitting with their glasses of wine, listening to the coach. And so I had thought to, and the great editor I work with had thought to, if you're nearby there, to get by there. Well, when I got there, what I decided is that it was really about the residents more than it was about him.
Sure.
They've led these, voluminous lives full of stories, and I always love listening to
This
them.
is me next month. I'm in a retirement home. This is me. Go ahead.
Well, if you need to tell your life story, I'll listen.
It's a great piece. And again, for Gundy, he doesn't strike me as the guy who would have that sort of empathy. Doesn't, but he does, obviously, right?
He does, and they really love him, and they've had a rough go this year, rougher than any recent year, and I think it's better for him to go there because in some way they feel like, it's not that important, and B, we already love this guy, he's done a lot for us, and maybe he picks them up, or they pick him up, sorry, in some cases, they kind of make him feel better when he's feeling badly about a losing streak. So it's, it really works, and it's pretty enchanting to be in there in the room. And of course, one woman, she's 87, she told me that all the women think he's really cute. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. Well, he's got that mullet going on. It's a great piece. Thank you, Chuck. Thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Chuck Culpepper, boys and girls. We'll take a break, come back with email and jingle. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is a ZipRecruiter read. While there are many different types of offices out there, one thing's for certain. Choosing the right candidate for any office is a huge responsibility. Well, if you're hiring, you want to find the best candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. Right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. How fast does ZipRecruiter's smart technology start showing your job to quality candidates, qualified candidates as well? Qualified. Easy to make that mistake. How soon? Immediately. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology works fast to find top talent, so you don't waste time or money. You can invite top candidates for your job to apply, to encourage them to apply sooner. Remember, if you want to find the right candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Just go to this exclusive web address right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. Free, people. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Phil Coleman on the euphonium. You don't get a euphonium all that often. It's really nice. Really nice. Want to do the Bethesda Bagel ad for us?
Bethesda Bagels, we love them. You will as well, especially when it's the bagel sandwiches on Monday with the foil wrappings. Very happy about that. Just go to BethesdaBagels.com for the location in the DC area nearest you. Then pop one in, my friend, and you will be.
What was the traffic situation?
It was nasty. There was a semi truck that was trying to back up through an intersection, and it couldn't get the angle right. So they had stopped traffic in every direction through like 5 runs of the light.
Yeah, but that's when you bring in the backup. That's when you bring in Case Keenum
Right, to
put him behind the wheel.
He kept going in and pulling out, and then I did something appalling. There was a moment where I had an opening,
And you took it.
and I was second in line, and he just went around everybody. And the guy was like, "You can't go," and I was like, "Well, I just did.
I just did.
I just did."
Before we get to the mailbag, let me just say on a somber note, we mark the passing of sophomore Fawn Leibowitz of Emily Dickinson College, who died in a killing explosion. She was making pot for her fiance, Frank Lyman. And, come on. Is that Frankie Lyman and the teenagers? Come on now. Animal House. Come on. Thanks to our guests today, Michael Wilbon and Chuck Culpepper. Thanks as well to today's sponsors. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Odyssey. Get the show through Apple. Please leave us a review. Rob Gould, we played his music the other day.
Yes.
And he writes,
Really good.
My brother-in-law, Stephen, a longtime Little, really knew what he was doing here as usual. Even without all the other great things about how you included Army of Devils and Gambling Girl on the show, your reaction to those first notes of Army of Devils was just beyond the amazing and touched me deeply. Cross between Springsteen and Christopherson, did this really happen? My friends won't be able to live with me. Seriously, winning songwriting awards only takes things so far for getting songs out there. Being on your show and your enthusiasm got it out there big time. For the record, my only distinct memory about Lynbrook is that it was next door to Hempstead Lake State Park, which was a great place to take our girlfriends. Thanks again, Rob. From Thomas R. Bogert in Scappoose, Oregon. He has written us a couple of times now because I remember Scappoose. Little did we all know that the cultivation and careful defining of the phrase "flush the mouse" was all leading up to the Yankees' fifth inning of Game 5 of the World Series. No better way to describe this. From Christian Hinder in Bel Air, Maryland. I served Reginald on that dinner cruise ship back in 2001. My girlfriend, now luckily related by marriage, served on the Dandy for a couple of summers. One 4th of July, she could not shake free, but landed me a one-day gig, helping serve meals on the boat. So the staff worked around the clueless guy for an evening. We got to watch fireworks over the Capitol once the tables were cleared, and the best, I got paid cash. Can't remember if Reginald had the steak or the fish, but he did belt a couple of tunes on the piano. Josh Cromwell, Moselle, Mississippi, our old friend. Is there any possibility that your driver from PTI didn't show up Tuesday afternoon because he was exhausted and voluntarily took himself out of the park? Yeah, it's an Anthony Richardson. That's what must have happened. I'm sorry, BLS, you're done.
Dead to us.
You're totally dead to us and should be dead to everybody. Yeah. You can't schedule a pickup, not show up, and not text. It's not how it works. Brett Boss or Bossy in Lee, New Hampshire. After learning about the Mustard Museum, only one question remains. When will mustard be included into the Toy Hall of Fame? From Adam Leahy, Brownsburg, Indiana. Let's start a new game entitled, Who Did Your Wife Have Lunch With Today? I got a text from a lady I'm related to by marriage on Tuesday around midday saying her coworker, a fellow Little, told her to share with me that she was sitting next to Harvey Stenger. Yes, that Harvey Stenger, the president of Binghamton University. My quick reply was something to the effect of, whoa, stop it. He dines in Tony's home. Give him a TK salute. Does he know Dr. Bai Lee? Right around this time, she was no longer amused after realizing the connective tissue and why I was so excited. They began to visit more, discussing many things, including how important you are in our home, much to her chagrin. And Mr. Stenger spoke glowingly about you. Sandra reports she didn't give him the TK salute, which is probably a good career move when you think about it. So Harvey is leaving the job.
Oh, no.
Harvey's retiring. He's going to wait for a new president to be named. He'll wait as long as that takes. He will end this full year. We texted back and forth. He said it's a hard job. It's 24 hours a day.
The school's had tremendous growth under his leadership.
Yeah.
Yes.
They made public Ivy. Come on now. He's been fabulous.
If Binghamton wins the college football playoffs this year, will he stay?
Probably. Ben in Beverly. A giant turkey falling from the sky to crack a windshield, you say? Maybe someone tossed it out of a helicopter in an ill-conceived Thanksgiving stunt? Did you happen to see a beleaguered and feather-covered Gordon jump anywhere? God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. Yeah. This is Steve the Sycophant. Not a great shot, but I got to stand on the original starting blocks for the sprints dating back at least 2,400 years ago. Keep on potting. So he's in Greece, right?
Yeah.
The original Olympic Stadium. Look at that. Send pictures of it. It's beautiful. That's lovely. Dennis Brown, South Bend, Indiana. I finally had my David Aldridge memory. When Dan Burns' new song in the 1981 World Series referenced Goose Gossage, I said, I know that guy. Rick, as we called him, was the hard-throwing senior pitcher, and I was the sophomore shortstop and second baseman at Wasson High School in Colorado Springs in 1970. Long before defensive shifts were popularized and then outlawed, I would position myself behind second base when playing short and practically behind the first baseman when playing second. High school players weren't getting around on him, nor did most major leaguers throughout his Hall of Fame career. Just as they don't make starting pitching like they used to, there no longer are the 2 and 3 inning closers like Goose, Bruce Sutter, Dan Quisenberry, Sparky Loud, Kent Tekulve, and Raleigh Fingers. There are not. From Timothy Cree in Fort Collins, Colorado. So, Tony, do you think of Terry Garr as being from The Conversation, Mel Brooks films, Oh God, Close Encounters, Mr. Mom, or Tootsie? What's her peak of fame? She somehow was only nominated for Tootsie. I think of her in Close Encounters. I really do.
Yeah.
I think of her first in Close Encounters. That's me. But Tootsie is the one, obviously. From Matthew Green. I was walking in my neighborhood the other day and noticed a political yard sign for none other than Mo Green. I would have thought a bullet to the eye would have stopped any run for office, but apparently not. I'm not sure what Mo's campaign slogan is, but I've got a suggestion. Mo Green. He's tough on crime. An eye for an eye. That's pretty good. If you're out on your bike tonight, everyone as always do wear white.
Come on now. That means everybody just cool out. Will you cool out, everybody?
All right, so that was Monday, November 4th episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show. And we are now going to go to Wednesday, November 6th episode. In just a second.
Hey, it's Tony.
There we go.
On today's show, we'll talk to Chuck Todd, who's been up all night figuring out his weekly NFL picks. It was a good thing nothing else was going on last night, right, Chuck? And we'll also talk to Jason, looking forward to get his thoughts on the winners and losers at the NFL trade deadline. But first, let's keep the wheels of commerce moving.
This will be the episode where they talk about the election that I'm not a big fan of.
Hey guys, 15% off your first order.
Previously, the Tony Kornheiser Show.
When I got there, what I decided is that it was really about the residents more than it was about him.
Sure.
They've led these, voluminous lives with full of stories, and I always love listening to them.
This is me next month. I'm going to retire at home. This is me. Go ahead.
Well, if you need to tell your life story, I'll listen.
This is General George Washington, and you're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show. My retelling of my life story would be quite short because I am unburdened by memory. I just, beyond the rock and roll songs I know, I don't know anything else.
High school box scores.
I didn't remember last year's Thanksgiving. It was like, I told this, I called Jeannie the other day. I said, I'm a little bit worried. I didn't remember where I had Thanksgiving, who I had it with, or any of those things. Michael, do you want to remember who
I'm glad to see that we made an impact.
I had it with Michael and Liz and the boys.
You didn't remember that you brought out a Thanksgiving dinner that you ordered from Roberta Dona to the beach?
I don't remember that. Now, I can order that same dinner. Roberta Dona is once again serving dinners because nothing, as Darryl Clark says, nothing says Thanksgiving like beef and pasta. But Roberta Dona, that might be a smart thing to do. I brought it out by myself and I don't know.
Yeah, single serving.
I don't remember anything. Yeah, single serving. I wasn't going to buy for everybody. Come on now. I didn't know what everybody else wanted.
Fend for yourself,
So
right?
I didn't know. So, I just, there's that period of time, I don't know, from 1972 on. I don't remember. I don't remember any of it. Look, I've made it a point to say that we're not going to do a lot of politics on this show because it is terribly divisive. We're in a bad climate. And I will mention this, just instant analysis of what happened in the presidential election was, I believe, essentially, Kamala Harris is not known. People don't know who she is. They don't know what she stands for. They don't know anything about her. She never ran for any office really on her own. She was part of the Joe Biden ticket. She got elected because he got elected. And she walked into this thing and I don't really think made a particular case as to who she was and what she was going to do. And Donald Trump is known. Donald Trump is known. This is the third run. He has dominated politics for the last 10, 15 years in this country. I mean, he's known. He's a known quantity. And some people, I think, are more comfortable voting for someone they know. They saw him in this job before. And I'm not going any further than this, but I'm just going to say that. And now I'll get back onto sports. Two things happened yesterday that were of particular interest to me. Joel Embiid got popped 3 games out for shoving a columnist in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Seen by a lot of people, nobody denying that it happened, and there's no ambiguity. It happened.
Team asking journalists to leave, not to report it, though.
Yeah, the team did that. Yeah, please don't say anything. Really?
Yeah.
And it is reported on ESPN. On the crawl, it always says for shoving a media member. He took the Philadelphia Inquirer columnist who wrote something he didn't like, and he shoved him. Now, let's get very specific about this. He didn't shove somebody doing a podcast from Indiana, okay? He shoved a guy who is there all the time writing about the Philadelphia 76ers for the Philadelphia Inquirer, right? So, okay. 3 games. And they are not to begin until he's ready to play. This is so easy. He's going to say, I'm ready to play now. Hi, David. Not David. It's not David anymore. Right? It's not David Stern anymore, because David Stern would have popped him higher than that.
Yes, he would have.
Yeah, so
Yes,
it's not him.
Mr. Silver, right?
Yeah, it's Adam Silver. Hi, Adam. I'm ready to play now. I'm out in L.A. I came with the team because I thought I could play, and it's a miracle. I can play. I can play against Clippers. I can play against the Lakers. And I go home and I play against the Knicks. So he's going to be able to play. Because he's going to say he's ready to play. Even though nobody in their right mind thinks he would have played in these games in Los Angeles. They don't think that. He would have laid out of these games like he laid out of the Phoenix game. He would have done that. Is it enough, 3 games? Not to me, because I was a sports columnist. Not to me. I would have said 5 to 10. That's not going to happen, and I sort of understand that. Again, Joel Embiid is in a hole of his own digging in Philadelphia. Is he going to come out of it? Sure. If he plays, and he plays great because he's a great player, sure he'll come out of it. If they win a championship, or at least get to the championship level, sure he'll come out of it. But, I'm not crazy with that discipline.
What is the angriest you've ever made a player?
Oh, to yell and scream at me and tell me I'm a terrible human. Gary Clark, I think, wanted to kill me. Receiver for Washington.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Kill me. I don't know. I always thought Adam Oates would want to kill me because I once wrote a column about Adam Oates saying, you don't like it here? There's the door. Don't let it hit you. That was the lead. You don't like it here? There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Adam Oates was the best player on the Washington Capitals at that point. And he sort of laughed at it. I got along very well with Adam Oates. So.
Wasn't there somebody that was giving you the business? I think it was a manager, and then somebody pulled him aside and said, you do this.
Frank Robbins. That's Frank Robbins. And then Mr. Ricky pulled him aside, PR guy, and just said, Tony, excuse us for a second. Said, hey, Frank, he's mean. He'll say something. Rick Vaughn was doing PR there. Yeah. And then Frank was very cordial when we came back here. Yeah. That stuff happens. Stuff happens. I understand that. Stuff happens. The rankings last night, the rankings came out for the first time, the college football playoff rankings. They were not particularly surprising. Oregon was number 1. Ohio State was number 2. I guess on the strength of the fact that they lost their one game on the road by 1 point to Oregon, the number 1 team.
Yeah.
And they had just beaten Penn State on the road. I thought they'd be ranked in the top 3, top 5. I didn't think they'd be ranked 2, but okay. That's okay. I think Georgia is 3. Miami, which hasn't lost. Miami has not lost, so they have been in tight games. Miami has been in tight games with schools that you think are sort of inferior. They're number 4. Indiana, an undefeated team, is number 8. Boise State, a one-loss team. A one-loss team only, this is interesting. Boise State lost by 3 points at Oregon. Ohio State lost by 1 point at Oregon. Boise State's great running back, Genty, had 192 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. The guy everybody wants to see. They want to see Boise State in the playoffs because they want to see him. Boise State ranked 12th. Ohio State ranked 2nd. Now, how do you justify that? Well, you justify that by saying Ohio State just beat Penn State at Penn State. But I thought, I didn't know if Boise State would be higher than that. BYU is number 9. Penn State only dropped to number 6. And that makes sense to me because they lost to the number 2 team.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff that goes on in this thing because we have 12 teams now, and they're not just ranking the teams, they're also seeding the teams. It gets too complicated for me when they start seeding the teams 6 weeks out. You don't have to do that. It doesn't help. And the reason it doesn't...
So that is some of this trying to protect where these teams might go over the last stretch of the season.
Yeah, but you have games coming up. You have, in the Big Ten, And in the SEC, particularly in the SEC, there's enormous jeopardy. Georgia still has to play Ole Miss.
Yep.
Georgia, that's a one-loss team, I think, Ole Miss. Georgia still has to play Tennessee, right? They could lose a game or two there. Alabama's playing LSU this week. Texas has to play Texas A&M. Indiana, who Wilbon loves, and everybody says they're the surprise team of the year, which they are, and Signetti would be the coach of the year, which he very well might be. They got to play Michigan. Not that good this year, Michigan, but they got to play Ohio State.
Yeah.
You know, now, if Indiana beats Ohio State, okay.
Well, then
everybody takes a step back and a deep breath and says, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They got to be in. If they beat Ohio State, I don't care what else they do.
Oh, absolutely.
They've got to be in.
Yeah.
So, but we're at that point where I think the committee, Michael, I don't know if you agree with this. I think the committee, and I don't know anybody on the committee, I think what they want to do is protect their ability to load this thing up with Big Ten and SEC teams, even if somebody has 3 losses. If they can load it up, because they're the best teams and the biggest draw, right? Doesn't that make sense?
Totally.
You know, that's what they
This
want to do.
is a chessboard that you want to be able to control the moves.
Yeah. Although, one very interesting thing.
Washington State is 21. They don't play anybody.
I don't see Florida State on this
They're not
list.
there. I'm amazed.
Right?
I'm sort of amazed at Florida State, which is having a really good year, that Florida State isn't part of this at all. So, I mean, Wilbon's position on this is, why are we paying attention to this hocus-pocus junk? Because it's going to change every week. And he's right. It's going to change every week. Why are we paying attention to it? Because it's now out there. It's now officially out there. So you can praise it or you can attack it. But you just don't say it doesn't matter. I am not of the position that it doesn't matter. I think it does matter. I think it is giving you, it's giving you GPS. It's telling you this is what we want to do. Yeah. Here's who we consider important, and here's how we're trying to stack it, right? Doesn't it seem that way to you?
Yeah, to your GPS point, you have a clear route right now, and if traffic or unexpected blips come up, you can move around it and find a new route to get where you want to go.
If you're on that committee, not only are you trying to be accurate in your seedings, but you are trying to protect yourself for the future. If you have to do something, if you want to do something that might be unpopular, such as put a 3-loss team in there.
Yeah.
Somebody's coming out of the Alabama-LSU game with 3 losses this week. 3 losses.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are going to say that's an elimination. But Tony's not saying that's an elimination. Tony's saying, well, I don't know. If they win out and they've got 3 losses, and, who are you going to put in ahead of them? Who exactly are you going to put in ahead of them? Because you know the quality of their football.
That's the point, yeah.
You know. And Notre Dame is sitting well now. Even though they have the worst loss of the year to Northern Illinois. But they haven't lost since then.
Yeah.
And they beat Texas A&M. They have a couple of wins. Although I don't know that their schedules, I know they have Army, but, they had Navy also. And they trounced Navy, and they're going to trounce Army. And they have USC, and USC is not what USC has been.
No. So
I don't know that do they have anybody like down the road that's going to stop them from having 1 loss?
Florida State, Virginia, Army, and USC.
No. If they lost to Florida State, that would be funny. Florida State has 1 win.
Yeah.
How's that working out? We'll take a break, and we will have Chuck Todd.
That's right.
When we return to pick some games, I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Etsy read.
All right, we are on to the next college football game I'm recording on the background here, so I need to look up the uniforms worn by SMU and Louisville now. Looks like pretty much all red for Louisville and all white for SMU. All right, good to know. All right, back to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Etsy knows what kind of holiday gifting reactions you're looking for this year. You want squeals of delight, happy tears, and spontaneously written songs of joy, right? Well, to get reactions like those, you need to make sure everyone on your list feels heard with handmade, hand-picked, and designed gifts from small shops on Etsy. Etsy makes it so simple to find original items that will make whoever you're shopping for feel extra special. When they open that box, it will be love at first gift. It's a good line. The kind of love you can only get when a gift is truly thoughtful and perfect for that person. Shop Etsy this holiday season for personalized jewelry, custom artwork, cozy style items, vintage pieces, and home decor to celebrate all of your favorite people and their specific kind of special. For original gifts that say, I get you, Etsy has it.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/TonyK to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com/TonyK. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, 789-Y, or text HOPE NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Ronnie Newmeyer sends the music in today, and he writes, did you know that in 1976, the last Waltz concert, legendary rock promoter Bill Graham served Thanksgiving dinner to 3,000 people at Winterland Ballroom before the show? Now, Hamilton is carrying on that tradition this weekend when Newmeyer Flyer presents the last Waltz tribute for 2 nights, Friday and Saturday, November 8th and 9th. This Friday and Saturday. The turkey dinner in a mason jar was created by Hamilton founder Tom Meyer when the show was first presented in 2012, and is served to everyone at intermission and included with each ticket. Tommy Lefson is doing one of the songs today, and Bill Starks, another one of our performers. I've attached his original song, Peace, Love, and Boogie Woogie. Bill is a multiple Grammy Award winner, pianist, singer, and songwriter, regularly performs throughout the D.C. area. Tickets are available at Hamilton's website and at the door. Bill Starks, Peace, Love, and Boogie Woogie. Wonderful. Ronnie Newmeyer does great work.
Yeah, it does.
He plays in Chuck Todd. And this week's picks with Chuck Todd and Reginald the Monkey are brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Chuck had another 4-3 week. He's 36-25. He's plus 11. He won the last game, the Monday night game, because he took 9.5 points with Tampa Bay. And I imagine you felt good about that the entire fourth quarter. Yes, no?
No, right. I mean, that's who the Chiefs are.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was almost like, yeah, let's watch. Let's see how they do it. Okay, I'll do it in overtime. I will say this. I was watching the game with a couple people, sort of a little day before election prep, and when it looked like he had snapped his Achilles,
Yeah.
you know, all of a sudden,
Put down the heat. Yeah.
we were in this hotel bar. I mean, it was, the whole place went silent. It was like, I mean, people were freaking out, and you're just like, oh, he's back. Oh, it would have, I mean, that would have felt like a death in the family if Mahomes wasn't there to watch play football for the rest of the season. I mean,
That would have been the most impactful injury in the year. He's the best football player on the planet. He's not going to win the MVP. He's the best football player on the planet. If you say to me, oh, I'd rather have Lamar Jackson, I say, well, you're insane, because he wins all the time.
he does this way.
Yes.
I mean, the ball where it looked like he snapped his Achilles. I mean, who else makes that throw?
He's that good. He's that good. Don't tell me about his stats. Look at the number.
Yeah.
There ain't no. One quick election question before we do the picks. Just looking back on it, what do you think? What do you think is the way you would describe the election in 30 words or less?
The simplest way to do it was, what president were you thinking about in the voting booth? Trump or Biden? And it turned out the country was thinking about the Biden years and the Biden administration. This is a fairly simple response of a country not liking the current administration and wanting, in this case, the previous one rather than something new. But it's, you know, it's tough for a political party to win a presidency when the sitting president of your party is sitting at 40% job rating.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. Hubert Humphrey, all right, I'm the sitting vice president, lost by 1 percentage point. Guess why?
because of an unpopular LBJ. Al Gore lost in Florida. Why? Because unpopular character of the president. They may have liked his policies, but they didn't like the person that was taken on Gore. It's tough to win as a sitting vice president unless people really like the president that you're trying to replace.
Also, they don't.
Bush with Ronald Reagan.
Okay, this is dangerous because I say I'm not going to do politics on the show. I will just say this one thing: the country did not know her at all. No, she had never run for anything. They didn't know her. They didn't know her, and they knew Donald Trump. And what they knew was, well, he was in there for 4 years and wasn't terrible, right?
This is why I use 68. Nixon was the same thing. He was known. Humphrey was a little less known, believe it or not, then. I mean, it's true. And you know what she didn't do? She didn't paint a picture of what she was going to do in her first month, first day, first 100 days.
Yes.
Whatever. Donald Trump painted a very vivid picture of what he's going to do as president.
Yeah. All right, we'll get off that because it's a show killer.
Right. With Carville's record, didn't he make this a triple play?
He did. He was 5-1. I don't know what to do with that. I want to give him a break.
I don't know, minus 270? You're not going to give him a minus 270 on that?
What did he say? He said somehow plus 240.
Yeah.
If I give her 240 plus what she got, she's way over the top. She's way over the top. All right.
So you're basically, all right, so maybe he's covering the spread?
I don't know what
he might have covered the election.
I don't know what to do with that, and I don't know if he'll show up on Friday. I never know. Cincinnati is at Baltimore. Baltimore had a very, very, very impressive win last week against Denver. At one point outscored them from the middle of the second quarter on 31-3. They have flaws on defense. Cincinnati has to win, or else they can forget the whole deal. They won last week in a have-to, but it was have-to at home. Not as good a team as Baltimore. This is the Thursday night game. You get 6 with Cincinnati.
Well, this is the divisional. The North is going to start beating each other up now.
Yes.
Right? I think Pittsburgh hadn't played a single divisional game, and they're going to start playing a bunch too. Look, I'm just going to blindly, not quite blindly, but because it's a divisional game, I'll take the dog here with the Bengals, even though it's on the road. But, the Ravens aren't exactly a team that always covers either, right? And if you told me this was a 3-point game, I'd believe it, right? At the end of the day, that somehow it's a 3-point game that Tucker kicks the winning field goal and they win, type of thing. So I'll take the 6.
Okay. Buffalo is in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is continuing to start Joe Flacco because they don't know what to do with Anthony Richardson because he hasn't really played a whole lot of football. Buffalo's a good team. I don't know that they're a great team, but with Amari Cooper, they're better than they were. Buffalo -4 at Indianapolis. Conference game, not division game.
It is, and the Indianapolis defense is not always great. 4 is it's a lot for a home team. It's just a lot of points there, but it is perfect conditions, and I feel like Buffalo is one of those teams, even though they know how to play outdoors, that Josh Allen's athleticism shows up in indoor games and stuff, that they can be a fast team. So I'll go with the Bills just because I think if you can prepare for Flacco, you can beat Flacco. I think Flacco's better when you haven't prepared.
Yeah, and he walks in, and he's such a difference from the other guy. All right, he also throws a great deep ball, even still. Denver is getting 8 at Kansas City. You took 9.5 with Tampa Bay, and you won with Tampa Bay. This went down from 9 to 8. Kansas City, this is a division game, so Kansas City may be more involved in it, but they're going to lose at some point. 8 is a lot because Kansas City doesn't care about the number. Who you got?
Yeah, it almost seems too easy to blindly take that many points against Kansas City because you're like, well, they never cover. This one also feels like, and I know Jeff may be able to explain this better than me since he's a professional at this, but moving it from 9 to 8 makes it a more popular tease play, which then, meaning most people like to tease these games down 6 points or up 6 points. So if you can get it below a field goal, and in this case you go from 8 to 2. So this will be moving it down to 9. It's almost they're inviting more people to bet on the Chiefs to cover just a simple field goal, which makes me even more inclined to take the Broncos here. So give me the points in a division game.
Okay. 3 road teams. I'm just keeping track. 3 road teams. San Francisco -6.5 at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got to have a win because they keep losing all the time. It is possible Christian McCaffrey will play in this game. Those people who were critical of Baker Mayfield over the years need to shut up. Need to shut up. He's really quite good. He's quite good. 6.5 strikes me as a lot.
By the way, what do you think Baker Mayfield how would he be doing in Cleveland right now?
He'd be doing a whole lot better than the guy they paid $230 million straight cash homie to.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
And they would have, and he'd still be doing commercials in Cleveland Stadium. The poor guy lost all of his contracts.
He did.
Nobody hires Baker anymore and he was pretty good in those ads.
Very good in those ads, better than he was on the field, but he's become a good quarterback now.
Yeah, he's growing into his sponsor. Yeah, he's growing into the idea of, okay, now you can be a pitch man on TV. This is San Francisco off a bye week, right?
Yes.
They had a break last week. So I don't want to get in front of. You would assume Shanahan's, if he doesn't have McCaffrey, he's going to figure out how to get that offense going. So give me the Niners there.
Okay.
10 points.
A lot of points. You're giving 6.5 away. Okay, just so we know.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
I know. Who's Tampa throwing to?
Well, he had 2 touchdown passes last week. No, they don't have Godwin. They don't have Evans. It was remarkable what he did. And they got to
that tight end's pretty good. That guy.
Yeah.
It still feels like they're always going to be playing catch up. So I feel safe-ish. That's it.
Here is a game that I never expected would be a really big game. Never. This deep in the season, Pittsburgh at Washington. Never expected it. Pittsburgh's going down from 3.5 to 3. Did he go up? I'm sorry, they went up from 2.5 to 3.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is getting 3 points at Washington. Washington has not been in this position in 20 years. And the biggest game in Washington's season, I think, will be at Philly whenever that game is. I think that's going to be a determinant game. Will you take Pittsburgh and 3 against Washington? You've been winning with Washington lately.
I feel like they're a wagon. I mean, I was nervous about taking them last week against the Giants,
right?
Because it's a divisional game. And, I mean, they're just... Is Pittsburgh going to be able to keep up? Again, does Pittsburgh keep up with Washington on the scoreboard? I mean, Wilson's certainly throwing the ball down the field a little bit more. I mean, they're a little more... got a little more offensive prowess, but I think the Commanders will outscore Pittsburgh by more than 3.
You know that they are the second leading point total team in the league to Baltimore. Or it's maybe Detroit. No, I think it's Baltimore. I think Baltimore has the most points, and then I think Washington has the second most points.
More than Detroit. Oh, I would have said so. I would have said Detroit.
I think so. Somebody could look that up.
A little bit of quick turnaround for the Eagles Thursday after.
Oh, is that? Oh, it's a Thursday game? At Eagles Thursday?
Look ahead.
Oh, that's not.
So now you're getting look ahead. So then that would be situation.
Oh, so they go Pittsburgh, Philly?
Yep.
They go through Pennsylvania? Sort of like Trump did. Went through Pennsylvania last night.
Went through Pennsylvania, conquered it.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm gonna switch. I'm buying into the look ahead spot. I think that here the Eagles game matters more. It actually does matter. These out of conference ones matter slightly less. I'm not saying they're not going to try to win.
So you want Pittsburgh now?
No, I'm going to take. Yeah, I did not know that scheduling. I'm going to take that tiny piece of information and overanalyze it. That's all I've been doing is overanalyzing the last 24 hours. So I'm going to do that.
So you have Pittsburgh. Your 5th straight road team. You have Pittsburgh in that over Washington. Right. Philadelphia's at Dallas. Philadelphia's given 7.5. That is really a lot. In a division game, that's a lot. And Dallas stinks, I understand, but 7.5 seems like a lot. Who are you going with in that one?
It's actually 7.
I know I
7. Down to 7.
Yeah, it went down to 7.
Down
Sorry.
to 7.
Yeah, okay.
So it makes it a little bit easier to take Philly here. 7.5, actually, that half point would be a little scared, but it's Cooper Rush. If it were Dak, I might take the dog in a divisional. So it is a lot of points, but give me Philadelphia. I think this could be the beginning of the end of Dallas. They lose this game, it could unravel, right?
I think it is unraveling now. I think the only thing that would make it unravel more is that you let all the air out of the balloon and it goes wildly crazy in the living room. Yeah, no, they're done. I think they're done. We'll see. Although I don't trust Nick Sirianni. Here's one more. You can do a road sweep because Detroit is -3.5 at Houston. This is the Monday night game. Houston hasn't really showed much in the last couple of weeks, and their quarterback has taken a step backwards or two. Detroit has looked great, but there's always a letdown. They're coming out of beating Green Bay at Green Bay. They're just not going to look at Houston the same way, I don't think. Detroit minus 3.5.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and in some ways, Houston really, they don't need it, but they kind of need to. They seem like a team that's not that's drifting, even though they've got 6 wins.
I agree.
Right? They just,
I agree.
They seem like they kind of need to see if they can win without Nico Collins. I mean, that seems to be what's wrong ever since that guy got hurt.
That's right.
Stroud is not as good throwing the ball down the field, so I might as well make it the clean sweep, and I'll take the road team then.
Take Detroit.
Or the 3. No. Give me the home dog. Sorry.
Okay, you're taking Houston.
No.
Not
I am going to take the home dog there. Not taking that.
Okay, so that's the
I know, I'm a little
busted
punchy.
flush.
My apologies.
You were going to have a flush, but no, you picked a team, a home team. You picked Houston. I want to make sure.
Yeah, I was gonna
You're picking
flush. I would've
Pittsburgh and Houston. Pittsburgh and Houston.
Pittsburgh and Houston, yes.
And I hope Michael got the schedule right, because he's laughing in the corner somewhere.
Publicly available information.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Chuck
Appreciate it.
Todd, boys and girls. It's his main job. It's a good job. And if we gave you Chuck Todd alone, we'd be giving you everything you need. But we don't give you Chuck Todd alone. We give you a monkey.
See the monkey, he's scratching, watching his iPad, smoking and laughing, hanging with Bud Grant, tapping on his purple attache. He's going to the zoo. Reginald's got the spine too. Sometimes he throws poo, and he's had too much Johnny Walker Blue.
What do you got with him?
So
He was 2-1 again. He's 13-11. He's +2. He's had 2-1 2 weeks in a row. He's okay. He's over Mount 500.
Yeah, not bad for a monkey. So I went down to the National Zoo, and as it often is, a very chaotic scene down there in his flat, where he's having an election watching party. I don't know if you all were aware of this. He was running for the council member at large here in Washington, D.C. So
Really?
we don't know what the vote totals are for that. There was a late night count for that. There's a lot of dispute, but we're hopeful. We'd love to see
I didn't vote for him. I think I wrote in either Len Downey or Don Graham.
Well, those would be outstanding choices as well.
Yes, that's how I felt.
So and there were lots of people in attendance, by the way. Lots of supporters, including Issa Tikkanen, Kate Beckinsale was there, and Raphael Landestor. Not sure what his connection is, but lots of people love Reginald, so they were there for him. But they took a break from the festivities to go through some of these matches. And the first one we gave him was Baltimore at home, giving 6 to Cincinnati. And this was a very poignant picture that Reginald showed me, very old. A picture of him in the road with the snow coming down, trying to stop the Mayflower moving trucks.
So he's a Baltimore guy.
He is a Baltimore guy. He's going to take the Ravens and lay the 6. Now, the next match we gave him was the Chiefs at home, giving 8 to the Broncos. And this was a lovely little slight video. It's very old, but probably a film, of Reginald crushing grapes to make wine, along with Hank Stram, Willie Mays Aiken, and Len Dawson. Tells me
He's going Kansas.
Tells me he likes Kansas City.
Matriculating those grapes right down the field.
Exactly. And of course, the last match we gave was Washington at home, giving 3. Who was Washington playing again? Pittsburgh. Yes.
They're playing a good team.
Yeah, this is an exciting game. This is completely different experience for this team.
So this late in the season to have a meaningful game is preposterous.
It really is.
And it's going to be another meaningful game on the next Thursday.
Crazy.
Remember the Monday night game you did with Pittsburgh at Washington?
Yes.
Oh, and that was the one.
2008.
Yeah.
The terrible fouls took over.
Yes.
I was at that game too. It was embarrassing.
Washington was in the middle of this
Yes.
dank, dark Snyder era.
Yeah. So Reginald showed me a photo of him at a pancake eating contest. And this is a great contest. Russ Grimm, Joe Jacoby, George Stark, who I believe was the head hog, was he not? Yes. So that tells me he's got ties to
He's
Washington.
going home teams, whereas Chuck Todd went road teams
Yes.
all over the place. We'll see how that works out. Good for him. This week's picks from Chuck Todd and Reginald the Monkey have been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We will take a break, come back with Jason Lock and 4. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Rosetta Stone breed. Are you looking to learn a new language? Maybe like me, you're planning to go bungee jumping off of bridges all over the world, and you want to be able to talk to the locals before you go. If that's the case, then you want to use Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program, which is available on desktop or as an app, and it's the program that truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. Rosetta Stone has been a trusted expert for 30 years with millions of users, and 25 languages offered like Portuguese, Korean, Dutch, many more. Utilizing fast language acquisition, Rosetta Stone immerses you in many ways. There are no English translations, so you really learn to speak, listen, and think in that language. Plus, it's convenient with desktop and app options and an audio companion that gives you the ability to download lessons offline. Best of all, it's amazing value. Lifetime membership has all 25 languages for any and all trips and language needs in life. It's normally a $399 program, but with our code, you can get it just for $199. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a very limited time, our listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% at rosettastone.com/Tony today.
Decisions.
Wait a minute. Are you still looking for cars on Carvana?
Yeah.
Pepsi. This is a song called Holding Out. And he's one of the people that's going to be at the last Waltz Tribute Friday and Saturday, November 8th and November 9th at the Hamilton. This is a Ronnie Newmeyer production.
We love Ronnie.
We love Ronnie. He's one of 30 performers who will be playing the music of the band because it's going to be the last Waltz Tribute. And they're all-star guests at the show. His song is called Holding Out. It was recorded at Jimmy Buffett's studio, Shrimp Boat Sound, in Key West, Florida. Ronnie Newmeyer does great work.
He does, and
Puts concerts together, and they are great.
and this has the feel of a band song, doesn't it?
Sure, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Oh, sure. I can almost hear Garth Hudson in the back. It plays in Jason Lockenfora, and I have to read this. We're joined by Odyssey NFL insider Jason Lockenfora, host of the podcast In the Huddle, covering the entire NFL. Let's just play the game of the trade deadline, the biggest move in the trade deadline, and I'm going to include DeAndre Hopkins and Amari Cooper. I mean, because because it didn't happen yesterday, it did happen as the trade deadline loomed. There's a lot of things. Darius Smith, Washington made a move, Pittsburgh made a move. But as you look back and assess it, if I force you to pick one move, what's the biggest move that teams made?
Well, I mean, I think the Darius Smith move was the most necessary, was the most had to happen. I'm a little surprised it's all that happened because they didn't have to give up much for him. And we can talk about, there weren't any impact edge rushers who were moved. Well, that's true, but I also think that's because people weren't willing to meet a certain price. And the quote-unquote selling team, in almost every case, doesn't have to do anything. You've got to provide sufficient motivation and incentives for them to do it, and for them to make the case to their owner to do it. And clearly there wasn't enough interest or demand in that to make those moves happen. I think the Amari Cooper one has a chance to be among the most impactful.
I agree with that, because they didn't have Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. No, they needed somebody to take the top off the defense. I like Shakir a lot. He can do a lot of things underneath. And yeah, you can line him up outside. He can win a little bit. But not in the way Amari Cooper can downfield. And I think, if he can stay healthy and they can really fold him in, then maybe that will also help open things up for the two tight ends. And I really thought they'd do more damage out of 12 personnel. But if they can win with Shakir and Cooper and a couple of tight ends on the football field, that might not be, a bad way for them to go down the stretch. I thought they'd be an exemplary team out of 12 personnel. It didn't really happen in the first half of the season. And so I buy that, I buy that he can make big plays for them downfield in January.
Yeah.
And I also think, Tony, that they're going to have that thing wrapped up by Thanksgiving. So they're not going to get the bye, right, because only Kansas City is, but they're probably going to have the next best thing to it. The division will be wrapped up. The seeding won't matter that much. And they're probably going to be able to sit guys and do a lot of sort of progressive things if they choose to in the final, I mean, hell, maybe even 3 weeks of the season.
I agree with that, and I also think that when you're Buffalo, you have to consider the last 6 weeks of the season is cold weather stuff, and you build a team in a different way. You do build it with tight ends, but you need one threat down the field. I think Amari Cooper is the most impactful guy. What exactly does Pittsburgh see in Mike Williams, who's had no year at all? Obviously expendable because they bring in Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's an interesting body type. He's the kind of outside receiver teams like. He does have 2,000-yard receiving seasons in his past. You know, he's been with some teams where things have been fairly broken recently. I mean, they don't need him to be like, look, did they really want Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel in the offseason, and were they trying to get Amari Cooper? And, like, did they think maybe they had Devontae Adams, but they couldn't have him because he's only going to redo his deal to go play with Aaron Rodgers? Yes, that they were trying to do more than this. But I think the emergence of George Pickens in this Russell Wilson-led offense has allowed them to, you know, add a guy rather than having to add necessarily the guy. And Preston Smith is, look, they're going to get Joe Herbig back. Like, I think him as part of a healthier D-line. Watt has been spending a lot of time on the sidelines watching games and dealing with nagging issues, and them coming off a bye and adding to their defensive front, you know, and giving them, you know, up nothing to do it. I don't know why, you know, you should always be up for something like that. So that they help themselves more on the margins than, you know, as making a move that is going to necessarily put them over the top. But I mean, I don't think there's anything to have issue with, and I think, you know, another big target for Russ Wilson.
Yeah, I never thought I would say this. At the beginning of the year, so it's unthinkable. Pittsburgh, Washington is a huge game. And what if Washington wins that? What if Washington wins that game?
Well, I mean, I think the spread's around 2.5. I mean, I think it's somewhat of a toss-up. I mean, the more work I do on that game, the more I lean a little bit Pittsburgh, and I think it has a lot to do with Mike Tomlin and his ability to get teams ready in this spot. I mean, what is he, 24-5 against rookie quarterbacks? I know this is no normal rookie quarterback.
That's right.
And I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson beat him a year ago, so, like, I'm not going to tell you it's infallible, but I think you look at what he's done over the years on the road, what he's done with his defense on the road against less experienced quarterbacks, I don't think it's flukish. And they are coming off a bye, and I think Washington's been really kind of playing with some house money. I mean, things have, and you make your own breaks, and, you know, Daniels has got to get the ball into the end zone, and I get all that, but it's hard to string together the kind of run they have. You know, 7 out of your first 9 with a rookie quarterback. Usually the pendulum starts to swing back the other way, and when the other team is coached by Mike Tomlin and they're coming off a bye and they're in first place in what might be the best division in football, or the second best, or certainly it's a division that routinely produces Super Bowl contenders, and Russell Wilson has played well there. I lean Washington, but I wouldn't be shocked or surprised at all.
I'll tell you this.
I lean Pittsburgh. Yeah, I know. Be shocked or surprised at all if Washington pulled that off. You know, I think they got to get Brian Robinson fully geared up. They have to continue to play mistake-free football on offense, which they largely have. And I like the move Washington made a lot. I mean,
they went and got a Pro Bowl cornerback. Yeah. He's hurt a lot, but he's great. Single coverage. Yeah, he doesn't allow touchdowns. And the other thing, Jason, is I've been here a long time. I didn't grow up here. I've been here a long time. They haven't done this in 25 years. They haven't been buyers in 25 years. Yeah. They haven't had a good team in 25 years at least.
Absolutely. No, look, some people might try to quibble with the draft pick compensation. I don't know, man. You're on a magic carpet ride right now.
Go for it.
Outside of Kansas City and Detroit, things look pretty damn watered down everywhere to me in this league. So, yeah, good on them. You hope your medical team and your training staff can work with him and find a way to avoid what, you know, has dogged him for years. But, yeah, there's no doubt when he's up, he's going to be fighting the other team's number 1 receiver, and he's going to hold serve.
Yeah, no, he's really good. So you mentioned Detroit and Kansas City, who do appear to look this good. Kansas City, again, doesn't win by much, but they don't have to if they keep winning. They keep winning all the time. Detroit looks very good. You like them both at the moment, or do you like Baltimore ahead of Kansas City?
No. Baltimore's defense, I just think it's, what you're going to have to do in the playoffs, and they're not going to host the AFC Championship game in all likelihood like they did last year, and I think that defense on the road, and even that offensive line, as young as the right side is, having to go on the road where it's loud and crazy against teams that you really get after the quarterback. I think it's a tough ask. I mean, it's a broken pass defense across the board, really all three levels. They don't defend screens and horizontal pass as well. They can't defend the middle of the field 10 yards downfield. They can't defend the middle of the field 20, 30, 40 yards downfield. And they're not that good outside the boundary either. So, and the pass rush stinks, and they didn't do anything to upgrade it. So, I think that will catch up to them in the end. Kansas City, it's complete utilitarian football. We know how to score one more point than you, or more points than you.
Yeah.
We're just, we know how to manage games. We just got to get the ball to our quarterback, no matter how poorly he's playing. And even if he's only on one ankle, just get the ball to him when he needs it in the fourth quarter or overtime. And we're going to prevail. I would like to see Detroit do more. I think, they lost both their outside pass rushers. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, for me, when he went down, was the second best football player on the planet next to Lamar Jackson, Encoro, and Ford. And they also lost Marcus Davenport in September for the year. They lost both their bookends. And I like Zadarius Smith, and he's a nice football player. But I think they needed to find a way to get it. I mean, look, if you can't get Max Crosby, whatever. But Jadeveon Clowney or Chizo Ojulari, they needed to, I think, fortify themselves on the edge a little more than they did. Not saying they can't win or continue to win as presently constructed and win it all. But I think they could have gone bigger. They could have parted with some real draft capital to try to put themselves over the top.
Yeah, I mean, philosophically, to me, if you think you can win, you mortgage the future. If you can win right now, because you're winning, I agree with that. I would do that. Can I just ask one small thing? Derek Carr's taken a lot of heat from current and former teammates, saying that he doesn't pass the ball in positions correctly, and he gets his receivers killed.
He throws a lot of medicine balls.
Is that fair? Yeah, that he just lobs?
Yeah, he doesn't activate well. It's coupled by the fact that guys don't think he's more activated. He's a pretty damn good athlete, but he goes out of his way to hide it. He doesn't activate his legs to extend plays. You know what I mean? And kind of put himself in a little bit of peril, as most guys think he could, given his athleticism. Right. And you couple that with sort of the cavalier nature where he flings balls at times, and he hasn't been a super popular guy. There weren't a whole lot of teams clamoring for him.
Could you see the interim coach? Could you see them benching him? Could you see?
I would have already done it. I mean, I would have already done it. I'm guessing, the GM, Mickey Loomis, just isn't there yet for whatever reason. And part of it is like Spencer Rattler. I mean, that looked god awful for 3 or 4 weeks. If they had a Trey Lance or something like that, not that I think that would look good, but at least if it was different, or there's some hope attached to it. But yeah, I mean, the two kids they had playing there for 2 or 3 weeks or a month or whatever while it was out, I mean, neither one looked remotely
Do you want to hear an amazing statistic on Derek Carr? He's in the league 11. I got this the other day. I didn't use it on TV because I didn't have time because Wilbon kept talking. But he's been in the league 11 years. He, as a starting quarterback, he is tied for the most losses in NFL history in 11 years. 91 losses. He's tied with Archie Manning, which is odd because they're both now. He is now in New Orleans. But Derek Carr tied for the most losses. So, back off, Sparky.
Derek Carr and Dennis Allen with the Raiders wasn't bad enough the first time. You had to bring it back a second time. Seems to be all the rage these days, Tony.
Just bad.
We saw it once. It was really bad. Let's bring it back. 4 years later.
Plug your radio show for us, Jason.
You can listen to me 2 to 6 on 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore, or on the Odyssey app. Talking mostly football this time of year, though. How about Derek Queen?
The Maryland kid, yeah.
Maybe Willie's on to something there.
Could be. I mean, he's a local. He's a local.
Yes, sir.
That's good. All right, thank you, Jason. We'll talk next week.
You got it, guys.
Jason La Canfora, you can read him in the Washington Post as well. He's doing a million different things, and he really is the best guest in the world. He is. We will take a break and we will have email and jingle when we return. I'm Tony Kornheiser. Oh, wait. Let me read this. That was on. I gotta read this. I circled it and I didn't read it. What are you, stupid? That was Odyssey NFL Insider Jason La Canfora. Make sure to follow In the Huddle on the Odyssey app or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is a ZipRecruiter read. While there are many different types of offices out there, one thing's for certain. Choosing the right candidate for any office is a huge responsibility. Well, if you're hiring and you want to find the best candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. Right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. How fast does ZipRecruiter's smart technology start showing your job to quality candidates, qualified candidates as well? Quality, qualified. Easy to make that mistake. How soon? Immediately. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology works fast to find top talent, so you don't waste time or money. You can invite top candidates for your job to apply, to encourage them to apply sooner. Remember, if you want to find the right candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Just go to this exclusive web address right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. Free, people. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Just locate the towels you're going to need. When I wake up in the middle of the night, as I always do, because I can't sleep because I'm so old, I wish I could play this.
And we need to get this.
We could arrange this.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't put me back to sleep, it would make me happy.
Oh, this makes you calm. Yeah.
Stylings of Jeremy Vint.
Really
What does Bethesda Bagel have for us?
Yes, Bethesda Bagels, we love them. You will as well. Just go to BethesdaBagels.com, forward a location in the DC area nearest you, then pop one in, my friend, and you will be thrilled.
Before we get to the mailbag, let me just say, in the day we sweated out on the streets of a runaway American dream, at night we ride through mansions of glory and suicide machines, sprung from cages on Highway 9, chrome wheel fuel injected and stepping on over the line. Baby, this town rips some bones from your back. It's a death trap. It's a suicide route. We gotta get out while we're young, because tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. That's the title song on the first really big killer album that Bruce Springsteen ever did. It was his third album.
Did he ever do
First
anything
two
big
were
after
great.
that?
Nothing. No. Fantastic song. Thanks to our guests today, Chuck Todd, Jason La Canfora. Thanks as well to today's sponsors. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey. If you get the show through Apple, please leave us a review. This comes from Ross Cohen, who said, I want to say a very heartfelt thank you for reading my email about the River City Band on the air last week. I was listening in the car and literally heard the read as I pulled up to rehearsal. I walked in beaming and immediately told our conductor, who then asked me to share with all 28 musicians. Heads nodded when I mentioned your name, and eyebrows raised when I explained you plugged our concerts on the air. I also shared with our board and staff. Needless to say, you made a lot of fans in Pittsburgh. Aside from the novelty of the national plug, I am more than anything touched by your sincerity in giving us such a platform. To say I appreciate it is an understatement. I know the other musicians you support on your show feel the same. The family element to your show is very relatable to me as well. I'm about Michael's age with 2 toddlers of my own. My parents are actually Harper alum from your era. Michael and Nancy Berkowitz Cohn, class of 72, I believe. Dad is a city boy like yourself. Our mom is from Glens Falls. She must know your roommate, right? David Carpenter. I'm sure she does. I know they were tickled to hear you read my email, though frankly I'm surprised they could figure out how to listen to a podcast in the first place. In any event, the accounts of your family time sound quite similar to my own, which is really very nice. From Tim in Scranton, just to be clear, I am not a lepidopterist. That's it. That's the moths.
Thank you for
Moth
clarifying.
people are coming today. More people are coming today. David Bradley, Sterling, Virginia. The easiest way to get rid of sweater-eating moths is to burn your house down. Though admittedly it does present some inconveniences.
But yeah.
Chris Thorpe, Loveland, Colorado. Has anyone considered the possibility that Mr. Tony's $50 sweater, having been relegated to the ignominious clearance rack, may very well have carried with it a pre-infestation of the little critters he so passionately abhors? A Trojan horse of deep blue merino wool triumphantly welcomed into the castle as a trophy of bargain hunting valor, only to unleash the ravenous larval army from within. This is a brilliant email. It's totally brilliant. Maybe that could have happened.
Could be true.
It's not a $50 sweater anymore, kids. It's up to $145 at the moment, and counting. From Sally Pittock, P-I-T-U-C-H, but pronounced Pittock, in Troy, Michigan. I'm a knitter who listens to all of your shows. I recently learned a new technique called needle felting. You take roving, which is wool before spun into yarn, and poke with the needle through the edges around the holes, and gradually the holes magically fill in. So simple and cheap. Roving comes in all colors. It really works, and you would never notice the holes. Hoping you have a knitter friend who could do this. A knitter friend. I had somebody who doesn't knit anymore. Otherwise, you may send your sweaters here to me in Michigan. I'll fix them all for free, of course. Your podcast and Wilbon PTI have provided my husband and me with years of wonderful entertainment. Time to pay you back for all the fun. Thank you, Sally. That's very, very nice. From Glenn Winters in Newport News, Virginia, Chuck and Roxy, 237. Tony, maybe soak your sweaters in coyote urine? You're welcome. Yeah, that would be great to then wear them. And they smell great. Everybody will be
safe, yes.
From Brendan Borzelli, first they invade your garden, steal, eat, devour everything except the peppers. Now they're inside your house, eating the very clothes off your back. You don't need an exterminator, animal control, or lepidopterist. You need a wartime concierge. You are neck deep in the animal revolution. Now is the time to go to the mattresses. If Reginald pulls out a picture of you, Luca Brasi and Mo Green together, you'll know who sold you out. Consider retreating to Sicily before it's too late. Just beware of young women who struggle to name the days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Friday. Paulie Coconuts, Winchester, Virginia. On Friday's spot, I heard you recite the lyrics of the late great Warren Zevon's Werewolves of London. The song appears on its Excitable Boy album, and if you listen closely, it sounds a little different from the other songs on the album. That is because it has a different rhythm section, specifically John McVie on bass and Mick Fleetwood on drums. Wow, Fleetwood Mac. Yes, the Fleetwood Mac rhythm section backs up Mr. Bad Example on his most well-known song. Wow. Kenny Ray, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. On Friday show, there's another email about this. On Friday show, you quoted from Warren Zevon's brilliant song, Werewolves of London. Did you know that his last public appearance was on October 30th, 2002, when he was featured alone on an episode of The Late Show with David Letterman as the only guest for the entire hour, when he was in the last months of his life after being diagnosed with mesothelioma? The band played I'll Sleep When I'm Dead as his introduction. Zevon performed several songs and spoke at length about his illness. Zevon had been a frequent guest and occasional substitute band leader on Letterman's television shows since Late Night was first broadcast in 1982. He noted, I might have made a tactical error in not going to a physician for 20 years. It was during this broadcast that when asked by Letterman if he knew something more about life and death now.
Gotta take a quick pause in the podcast as we continue to fly over the northern coast, I think still of Spain, as we look up the uniforms that Coastal Carolina and Old Dominion wore. I think this is the right video. Let's sit through an ad. So we've about got the Pat McAfee kicking contest about to happen, a 33-yard field goal for some kid from LSU. See how he does. So it looks like Coastal Carolina wore all white, and Old Dominion was dark blue at the top, light blue at the bottom. All right. We'll just enjoy the flight sounds for just a bit. 1 second, I'll be right back. All right, before we go back to the podcast, the kid's getting a second attempt, this time for $250,000. He missed it horribly the first time to the left, and he missed it even worse the second time. So field goal kickers do have a tough job. All right, back to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
He offered his oft-quoted insight that people need to enjoy every sandwich. He also thanked Letterman for his years of support, calling him the best friend my music's ever had. For his final song of the evening and his final public performance, Zevon performed Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner at Letterman's request. In the green room after the show, Zevon presented Letterman with the guitar that he always used on the show with a single request. I want you to have this, take good care of it. How about that?
That's amazing.
How about that? I met David Letterman a couple of times.
Oh, that's right.
Wilbon and I were on his show once.
Yeah.
And I met him at another function where he came up to say he watched PTI all the time. It's one of the most thrilling things in my life. This is David Letterman, kids.
Dave Letterman.
David Letterman.
Yeah.
Ben Cardin, not Cardin, the official, unofficial senator of the TK show. I, like you, spend entirely too much money on cable. I could surely learn the streaming nonsense and become like Wilbon. I just don't want to. I like my channels and I like my DVR and knowing what numbers to push. That being said, my bill has really gotten to be too much. Luckily, I think Xfinity knew I needed to be placated for the amount I give them each month. So what did they do? I won a contest and got my face on Bubba Wallace's car for Sunday's race. I don't know if anyone could actually see my face on the car while it was going around the track, but attached is what it looks like. Oh, that's fantastic.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's really great. That's me above the T in Xfinity, shoving a huge amount of chocolate into my mouth. So maybe spend a little more money each month and you too could have your face plastered on the side of a race car. From John Edinger in Syracuse, New York. On Friday's show, you described a photo of Kelly Hodges in Pocatello, Idaho, as showing a car up on dunes made of sand. Just curious, are you waxing poetic or is there another substance that dunes can be made out of? If so, please share that. After all, the show is known for enlightening us littles with information for life. I may have gotten carried away on that. I may have gotten it wrong. Bobby Godfrey, when you read the email on Friday from Paulie Coconuts about Pope John the 23rd High School, I thought, hey, I know that high school. My cousin Nick Esposito played running back for that high school. At the same time, Noah Brown was a wide receiver. Their paths diverged from there, with Noah going on to play at Ohio State, win a national title, and go on to make one of the greatest catches in Washington football history, while Nick played 4 years at Division III Catholic University and ended his football career after that. So it was very cool to find out that the hero of the win over the Bears huddled up with my relative just a few short years ago. Michael Baranek. Quick calculation using Wilbon math. North Scottsdale to the Paycom Center, where the Oklahoma City Thunder play, is 950 miles. 853 minutes of driving, according to Google Maps, translate to 5.7 Wilbon. A flight from Chicago to Oklahoma City would be 2 hours, or 0.8 Wilbon. These numbers are assuming the commute to Pittsburgh from D.C. takes 150 minutes. Talk about once in a lifetime happening. My kids and grandkids were trick-or-treating in Studio City, California, Thursday night, and they saw Clayton Kershaw, Will Smith, and Freddie Freeman with their families doing the same. My grandson, Oliver Kane, who was 10, got a high five from the MVP of the World Series the day after they won. Pretty cool. Regards, TG.
How about that?
What a life TG has, huh? Damon in Seattle, Washington. Did Michael make a reference to the movie Whiplash at the end of the pod on Friday? I believe he did. Whiplash is one of my favorite movies, a musical mentor movie that's actually kind of a horror movie. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. Great performance by J.K. Simmons, not Simons.
I think it's Simmons, yeah.
He was nominated for an Academy Award.
He may have won for that. I think
he did win for that.
He's such a great actor.
It's a really great movie.
Yeah,
it's really great.
Wonderful movie.
Jeff Heisen, Silver Spring, Maryland, Chuck and Roxy number 6. Please thank James Carville and Jeff Ma for me, as I took their 5 college picks, put them in a parlay, and turned $2 I'm not a big bettor into $64. Pace, listen to your podcast. Carville and Ma were hot.
Yeah?
Carville and Ma were very hot last week. And one more from Neil Ayervase, who's a lawyer in Littleton, Colorado, and writes a lot. I was in the process of composing a humorous, insightful, and trenchant email that would have had Chuck and Roxy begging for my appearance on their marvelous podcast. Unfortunately, I watched the entire new season of The Diplomat in one sitting instead. No sincere apologies. You did that too.
I did.
It's great.
It really is.
That's right. Well, I haven't watched television in 5 years.
You need to get back in for this.
I haven't watched in 5 years since then.
It's time to come back.
All right. That's it. If you're out on your bike tide, everyone, as always, do wear white.
You so long.
All right, we're going to move on to the Friday, November 8th episode of the Tony Kornheiser Show. Here we are.
Hey, it's Tony. On today's show, we'll talk college and pro football with Booger McFarland, and both James Carville and Jeff Ma will call in with our weekly picks. Carville? Who knew? But first, commerce.
Peace of mind. Having impact windows in self-driving car. If you see it on the road, you can likely find it. Auto Trader.
Previously on the Tony Kornheiser Show.
I always thought Adam Oates would want to kill me because I once wrote a column about Adam Oates saying, you don't like it here? There's the door. Don't let it hit you. That was the lead. You don't like it here? There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. And he sort of laughed at it. I got along very well with Adam Oates.
Wasn't there somebody that was giving you the business? I think it was a manager, and then somebody pulled him aside and said, you did it.
Frank Robinson. That's Frank Robinson. Frank Robinson doing PR. They pulled him aside and just said, Tony, excuse us for a second. I said, hey, Frank, he's mean. He'll tell you.
The Tony Kornheiser Show is on now.
Those were the good old days when I did what I respected, when I was a writer. I really enjoyed that. Now, and this leads me into something, and I'm just going to say this out loud so people understand it. Because Michael will never say this to me, and Nigel will never say this to me, and the people at PTI, they're not going to say this to me. Because they've seen me on this show for over 20 years, and they all like the PTI show. I got home last night. I went downtown and did the show in the studio, which I enjoyed, because, I like to see everybody a couple of days a week. Don't go crazy. Don't
Increasing frequency.
No, 2 days a week is fine.
It used to be one.
Yeah, now it's 2, and I think we're going to stop. We're going to hold the line, maybe, but I don't know. But I got home, and for reasons unknown to me, Carol had ESPN on the television set. She didn't watch ESPN. She didn't know anything about sports. She didn't care. But it's on, and it's Sports Center. And it's at that point in Sports Center where Mike and I have to do this Sports Center hit 4 days a week, not on Mondays when they go right into the pregame show of Monday Night Football, but 4 days a week we have to do this hit. It takes about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. It's, we do it. And I saw myself on television. I said, oh my God, this person, I didn't even think it was me, this person is so old. And I looked again, and it was just so old, so old.
And that's with makeup.
Yeah, and that's with makeup. And Mike looks old too. And I just thought, we look like Muppets. We don't even look like real people. We look like Muppets. We can't continue to be on the air. And when you say this to people, say, oh no, the show's fine, the show's fine. But the people who say the show's fine have watched the show for 20 years. We're not getting anybody new. And if somebody in their teens now would look at it and go, who are these fossils? Why would I listen to them? What do they know? They don't know. Just get them off the air. That's what I'm thinking.
Note to Michael,
get off the air.
you need to make sure that ESPN is not on the television at any point.
Just so
Relay that to Mom.
I'm not allowed to do the story from the coffee joint, right?
No, I've changed my mind.
I can do it?
You could share. I walked downstairs and I told Nigel, wait till you hear the coffee.
Okay, so I have...
It's either this or the flashlights that you just ordered.
I'm not doing the flashlights. So yesterday I go to have coffee.
Can't wait for that.
I won't...
They're not tactical even.
The flashlights are good.
They're in Consumer Report.
Yeah.
Can you see it from space?
It's a good, solid...
You dog-eared the page and circled the product.
I did. It's $22 a flashlight. We bought 4.
Well, yeah, you gotta get enough.
come
The Consumer
on,
Report wasn't even addressed to you.
No, it was addressed to somebody else. So, but it was... Anyway. So I go out to have coffee with my friend Brent yesterday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. And Brent and I go back to grade school. We go back for all our lives. And Brent, as people might remember, was at one point the most important archivist in the United States of America. He was in charge of the Smithsonian Institution American History Museum. The most important guy. And we've always been pals, and he lives in Washington, and I live in Washington. And we went out to get some coffee. We hadn't done that in a few months. We've done it a couple of times, and we catch up, and it's very nice. And I respect Brent enormously. He's got a doctorate in history and all of that, and I really respect Brent. Like him very much. So we meet at this place for coffee at 8 o'clock, and the place doesn't open. The place opens at 8 for reasons that are unknown to me and probably having to do with my age and when I wake up in the morning. I just sort of assume that if I'm up, everybody's up, and if I'm up and I'm ready to have coffee, all the coffee joints are open. Because, like, for example, at Rehoboth, there's a Starbucks on Rehoboth Avenue. That's open like at 5:30 or 6 in the morning.
Yeah, sure.
So I sort of think if you're doing coffee, you're open early. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
Dunkin' Donuts?
Maybe I'm wrong. Well, Dunkin' Donuts won't open
Ready to serve.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you have to check what the neighborhood restrictions are.
So in any case, I get there and there's I get there like right at 8, and the door is just open, and there's like 20 people online. So we're not going to get coffee right away. It's pointless to wait online. We're going to chat because it opens at 8. Okay, you can open whenever you want. It's fine. It's okay. So about 20 minutes later, I notice, because I'm looking in the window. Brent's got his back to the window. We're in the street. We're sitting at a table in the street. It's very nice, very pleasant yesterday, very pleasant. 60 degrees.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous day.
Okay.
It's a classic early November day.
Yeah, it was really, yes, in Florida, not in Washington, D.C. It's because it's really different. So I say to Brent, okay, let's go. There's only one guy online. Let's go. And we walk inside, and I say, my treat. And I say to them, and Brent wants black coffee regular, and I want decaf, cream, no sugar. So I say these two things. I get this look back, like, really? Like you think I'm getting you the
Well, those
cream, no
look a
sugar?
little
It's
ominous.
over
Giant
there.
spikes in
Okay,
northern Spain.
that's
Who knew?
fine. It's fine. I just make the order in case they do it themselves.
Right.
And I go, how much is that? And the woman behind the barricade says $6.01.
Barricade?
Well, whatever, behind the counter.
Well, good to see where this is
Go to
going.
the barricade. Behind the counter,
You at the barricade, listen to this.
she says $6.01. I take out $6 and I hand it to her. And she continues to look at me. She looks at me.
What is this strange thing you've had to me?
No. It's
Missing
there's
something.
1 cent here. There's 1 cent. And I go, you don't have any pennies? No, we don't have any pennies. We don't have any pennies. Now I'm not gonna.
So many
I'm not gonna
windmills.
make an argument about this because it's $6.01. I'm a little chagrined by this. I'm a little amazed by this. I would think that any merchant would eat the 1 cent rather than give me back 99 cents. And I'm thinking to myself, she says, we don't have any pennies. Well, you do have pennies because you're going to go into the drawer. And you're going to give me 4 pennies at some point because you got to get 4 pennies to get to 99. That's the way it works. I don't have any change. Brent doesn't have any change. I eat it. I eat it. And not only that, I say, keep the change. But I am amazed at this. It's 6:01. It's not 6:10. It's not 6:25. Not 6:50. It's 6:01. And she stands there, not in any belligerent way. No. In like, look, this is my job.
Yeah.
And then it is explained to me by someone. Can I mention who?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, my daughter-in-law. My daughter-in-law says to me, no, you can't talk about this. Can't talk about this because they're counting their money, and she will get in trouble if she doesn't come up with her. And okay, I get that.
What happened to the take a penny, leave a penny little jars?
Yeah, they don't have it. Pennies are useless now. You read stories about them all the time. They cost far more money than they're worth.
They'll be gone soon.
But I mean, I just thought, come on.
This is where a small store should have nothing that doesn't end in a easy fraction. 25 cents, 50 cents.
$6.
Yes.
$6. It's 2 cups of coffee, 2 small cups of coffee. And I was asked by Liz, were you amazed at how much money? No, I mean, I accept that. They could have said 10. I was going to accept that. That's not, the amount isn't going to bother me. What bothered me was she waited for the 1 cent. I just thought that if you're a merchant and you have customer relationships, you eat the 1 cent, right?
Yeah, yes. But I would say this is why if I'm that store, I'm just going to put out my own take a penny jar and just say, I don't want this to be an issue for anybody.
And it's a very nice place, and you can sit, nobody bothers you. They are very accommodating. You sit out there forever. Nobody yells at you. It's fine.
So when you mentioned this, I was thinking about the big coffee chain that we're all thinking of, where they got rid of the self-serve bar of condiments because they wanted to try and keep people out. I mean, you had to ask for everything at the front, and now they're trying to get you back into the store. This is the opposite of that. It's a great place to take a computer, work for hours.
Yes.
People are getting sit-down breakfast there.
I hesitate to give the name of it. I hesitate to give the name just because, my hot take on this may be insane.
Wasn't Chatham?
How did I get? No, it wasn't Chatham. How did we get permission that I could talk about this?
I just know I thought about this with the news from Starbucks. When you just think about how can a local store, and I don't know if this is something really to do with, when you think about credit card fees, when you think about the take a penny, leave a penny, like I want to get you into the store and I want you to come back and bring your friend. So I'm sad it got to that point with the penny, but I now think that's a larger issue that we can talk about. Like how can you avoid that from happening?
Yeah, so the prices have to end on something even. If now, I would get it if it was a large corporation. Like,
I'm sure
my
there's
hands
tax involved.
Yeah,
but you can predict that even when the taxes fluctuate.
Exactly.
You change the price.
Change the price to make it come out even, so that you don't run into that.
601, and she looked at me like, come on.
Now, you know what you could do? You could go back
carry
there.
pennies.
You could go back there with like a jar
Throw 'em.
full of pennies and be like,
Yeah.
now everyone has pennies for everyone.
Yeah, pennies from heaven.
Pennies for everyone.
No, I thought that was sort of amazing. It's a part of my life. Brent and I were talking about something. And you know, when you run museums, you go into a lot of different areas. It's not just in cities, because you have to gather things from museums, and museums, often the gathering is in smaller towns. And Brent does a lot of traveling because of museums, and was telling me he was in Pennsylvania last week. And he said, look, you need to understand something. The way you live is not the way everyone in America lives. I've lived my whole life in or near cities, my whole life, except for Binghamton. But Binghamton was at least a small city, 50 to 100,000 people at that time. I've never lived in a rural area. And Brent says, they don't have Starbucks in most of America.
Did we just freeze?
They don't have a place
there
where
we go.
you can sit down and
Dropped
have
about
coffee
1,000
and eat.
frames
They don't
there.
have that. They're lucky if they have a McDonald's. And I hadn't.
But you see this
thought
if you drive out to Delaware and you see the power of some of the convenience stores, whether it's a Wawa or a Royal Farms Chicken, and the
dollar stores. What do they call that? Dollar General.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. I mean, like, nobody's putting a Dollar General here in Washington D.C. They're not going to do that. Anyway, I got one other thing. I go into work yesterday. I go into the studio, and Bonnie says, "There's ice cream. You got to take the ice cream home." I said, "Well, what kind of ice cream?" And she says, "Oh, it's alcohol infused ice cream." I said, "What?" So she takes me to the freezer, and there's 6 different pints of ice cream. And I go, where did this come from?
How many were originally sent?
6, I think.
6 and 1.
And 2 of them were flavors that I sort of found interesting. But let me just read this to you. This is from Jen Randall, who is the CEO of Proof Hard Ice Cream. That's sort of like, hard seltzer. They have to say that to indicate to you that there's an alcoholic content. Hi, my name is Jen Randall. I'm a longtime fan of PTI and your podcast. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky and had the good fortune to play for the University of South Carolina women's basketball team from 1992 to 1995. So she's obviously a big-time athlete in South Carolina. As a kid from Kentucky, we grew up around basketball, bourbon, and horse racing, of which all 3 I adore. Light bulb moment. Proprietary gourmet ice cream with top-shelf alcohol and Proof Hard ice cream was born. Recognizing you are an ice cream fan too, I wanted to share the proof with you and your team. I love your shows and team. Keep being great, Jen Randall. I didn't take them home because I was afraid they'd sort of melt.
Right.
But I got Matt Williamson on it, and if it fails, Matt Williamson is taking the hit. As he said, he'd bring the 2 chocolates. Now I have to.
You can take him to his ice cream, to his hockey game.
Yeah, well, it'll stay frozen there. I have to be honest.
Have you seen the logo for Proof? It's really cool.
No.
They got rid of the double O and they put the percentage symbol.
Okay. This is not something that on first blush appealed to me, and I said to Bonnie, alcohol and ice cream? I don't know. I'm not certain, but I decided I would try it.
Make your own blush mix at home.
Yeah, would you do that? I'll try it. It's such a nice note by somebody who likes the podcast. So if the ice cream is not stolen, and it might very well have been stolen yesterday when I left, if the ice cream is not stolen, I will be happy if Matt brings it over to try it in the privacy of my own home.
It's in the same category as like a dessert drink, like if you wanted to do like a loaded coffee as an after dinner drink.
Yeah, I don't ever do
sitting
that.
down to watch a movie.
Yeah, I don't ever do that. I'm not. I drink wine and I drink beer, but I'm not.
It doesn't seem like you're going to go to a bar and ask for a pint of Proof ice cream.
But it's a great name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Proof. It's just because it's 86 Proof. It's such a great name.
It is.
Oh yeah. That's really nice. I hadn't noticed that. You see, so we wish Jen luck.
Absolutely.
And it's like, okay, what moves the country? What moves the country? 2 things move the country. It's not people like me talking about sports on television. No, it's not. There's 2 things that move the country: science and entrepreneurship. Those are the only things that count. If you're in science and you're helping the world and you're doing things, you're at boundaries, you're going past boundaries that have existed for years, and you're changing things, particularly things like medical science, God bless. And if you're entrepreneurship, good for you. The Bill Gateses of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the Jeff Bezoses of the world, they move the world. I don't do anything. I order flashlights that come the next day because of Jeff Bezos. I don't help anybody. I'm entertaining. I understand that. God, I look like a Muppet. We'll get out of here. Who's first? Booger?
Booger's first, yes.
When we return, I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Etsy read. Etsy knows what kind of holiday gifting reactions you're looking for this year. You want squeals of delight, happy tears, and spontaneously written songs of joy, right? Well, to get reactions like those, you need to make sure everyone on your list feels heard with handmade, hand-picked, and designed gifts from small shops on Etsy. Etsy makes it so simple to find original items that will make whoever you're shopping for feel extra special. When they open that box, it will be love at first gift. It's a good line. The kind of love you can only get when a gift is truly thoughtful and perfect for that person. Shop Etsy this holiday season for personalized jewelry, custom artwork, cozy style items, vintage pieces, and home decor to celebrate all of your favorite people and their specific kind of special. For original gifts that say, I get you, Etsy has it.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video. This Thursday, one of the NFL's toughest rivalries is on as the Cincinnati Bengals face the Baltimore Ravens. Join Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung for this exciting matchup. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party, TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon, live from Baltimore. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial and you can cancel at any time. It's the Bengals and Ravens at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is from Phil Lentz. This is called I Remember the Early Days. And Phil Lentz writes this. Hi. First, a regards for Tony from an old friend. It's from Glenn Eisenstein, a college roommate. I know Glenn from bridge. Glenn is a professional bridge player, I know that. And saw him yesterday at a bridge tournament. And Glenn recalled for me how Tony got his start in journalism. This is 50 years ago. While in college, he wrote a letter to the Newsday sports editor complaining about the quality of the paper's sports coverage. It led to an interview and a job offer, and the rest is history, and that's true.
It's true?
It's true. Glenn and I and Norman Levy, we drove to the Kentucky Derby one year from Binghamton, New York. And I'm sending you a song from my new album, Phil Lentz Presents Volume 2, which will be released next month. It's a vocal call. I remember the early days. Hope Tony can play it on the podcast. When I get these things, I'm sort of overcome. It's lovely. It's a lovely song, and thank you for regards from Glenn. I appreciate that. This song plays in Booger McFarland, and I should tell people that Booger, when he's on PTI, always wears a golf shirt because he knows it's going to make me happy if I can guess what the golf shirt is. When I'm doing the show from my house, my camera ability is limited. I can't really see all that well. But doing it from the studio, Booger comes up larger than life on a big screen. And I looked yesterday, and his shirt had on one side an American flag, and on one side I didn't recognize the flag. And I said, yeah, it's sort of, that's not secession, is it? And he said, yes, that is secession. Secession is a lovely golf course in South Carolina. And then, Booger, we started to talk and tell people where else you have played there in the Low Country.
Yeah, in the Low Country, there's a good one called Old Tabby. There's another one called Chichetti Creek Club that is a phenomenal little hidden gem. There are some great golf courses in the Low Country, in that little area there. One of my favorite places to go, although I would warn you about going in the middle of July because it's hot as fire there.
Yeah, so Old Tabby is referred to by the locals as Spring because it's on Spring Island, and the next stop is Europe. You look over the water and there's nothing in between you and Europe, and it is so far away from like a store. It's like 30 miles to get to a store, and people really live in isolation. Further up that road towards civilization is Chichetti Creek, where Michael's in-laws are members, and I've played that a bunch of times. And Michael, what's the name of that course, the new course that we played where they set up the tees so you can have matches?
You're thinking of Congaree.
Congaree. Booker, did you ever play Congaree?
I have an open invite to Congaree. I've never been. Congaree was one of the new ones that they, it's relatively new.
Yeah.
They held an event there not too long ago.
Yeah. So here's what I would tell you about Congaree. It is so big, you can land 10 747s on it. It is the largest place I've ever seen. We played it. It was cool, fun. And if you have that standing invite, the next time you're there, put that in the rotation. Put it in the rotation.
We'll definitely do. I appreciate the advice on that one, Tony.
All right, that's good. So let's start with some football. And the obvious question, it's a great game last night. What did we learn from Cincinnati, Baltimore?
I think a couple of things. Number one, Lamar Jackson is playing out of this world. And if he won the MVP last year, he's got to be leading the MVP race this year because he's playing better. That's number one. Number two, Baltimore's defense. Somebody put out an ATB because I haven't seen a Baltimore defense this bad in a long time. Their pass defense is abysmal. They can't cover. And I'm afraid of all the years for Baltimore to kind of have their defense go missing, this would be the year because it seems like the Chiefs are vulnerable. This offense is producing at a high level. And for the first time, Lamar Jackson, I think, has elevated himself to one of the elite passers. He's always been a really good quarterback, but now he's one of the elite passers in football, and it's a poor time for that defense to go missing. And for Cincinnati, we keep giving Cincinnati the benefit of the doubt. Joe Burrow will figure it out. They get off to these slow starts, they'll be okay. Don't worry about it. They're 3-5, they'll be okay. Don't worry about it. They're going to be okay. Well, I'm telling you right now, Cincinnati is not okay. That's another defense that's gone missing. Louis Anarumo, who everybody says is the best thing going the last couple of years, his defense looks bad. And I think if you're Cincinnati, you really have to be alarmed because in a year where Joe Burrow is playing elite and Jamar Chase is at worst the number 2 receiver in football behind Justin Jefferson, you have no defense, and I think you have no shot right now.
I agree with almost all of that. What was the score last night? What was the score last night? It was 1 point game. Yeah, it was 34.
It was a 1 point game, yes.
34-33? Something like that?
Yeah, 35-34, 34.
That's okay.
Cincinnati went for 2 to win it.
Right, yeah, 35-34. I'll get to the 2 in a second. 35-34 is 69 points. The over-under number was 53. 53 is a really high number, and it killed the over-under number. It didn't even touch the first game. They had 41-38. Baltimore is the best offense in football. They do. They have scored the most points in football, and their defense is terrible. So, Booger, I've got to ask you this. I watch ESPN. I watch other networks as well. Whenever people talk about the Super Bowl, somebody, and not just one person, more people, yesterday it was 2 people on the Get Up show, both of them picked Baltimore to win the Super Bowl. Am I living on the moon? They're giving up 35 points. How can you pick them?
Because Lamar Jackson has been so great. And I think that you're basically saying if you pick Baltimore, that Lamar Jackson is going to cover up for the multitude of sins that the defense is committing. I personally think they're going to be in the mix, but I agree with you. You can't be what their defense has been and be a Super Bowl favorite right now. I think since we're on the topic of Super Bowl, I think if you're going to ESPN Bet or whatever site you go to and you're trying to bet on 2 teams that have been in the Super Bowl, I think right now you would have to go Detroit, Kansas City. Sure. And then if you gave me backup picks, I'm going to surprise you with this one, Tony. Watch me now. I'm going to surprise you with my backup pick in the NFC.
I know who you're going to be. You're going to pick Washington.
The Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. It's amazing.
And the only reason everybody is kind of rolling their eyes at that pick is because the quarterback is a rookie. Well, what if he doesn't play like a rookie ever? What if he plays like a guy that's had 50-plus starts in college, which he has?
Yeah.
What if he never reverts back to the rookie form that we're used to seeing so many quarterbacks? You're telling me that Washington can't beat anybody outside of Detroit and the NFC? I think they can.
So here's what we've got. Washington, the next 2 games they have. They have Pittsburgh this week at home, and then they're at Philly. If they win both those games, I'm totally with you. If they win those 2, right? Those are good teams. Pittsburgh and Philly.
I would even go a step further. I would say if they split, and here's what I mean by that. If they lose to Pittsburgh and it's a close game and the quarterback plays well and I come back and beat Philly, it doesn't do anything to change my mind whatsoever.
Okay, I'll go with that. I just want to make one point about Cincinnati. Last week there was a big brouhaha about Todd Bowles going for 1 instead of 2. And a lot of people, I agreed with him in that moment. I agreed with him, but a lot of people did not and said he should have gone for 2. And now you can ask me, what about Cincinnati going for 2? Completely different circumstance. Cincinnati, right, Booger, they were going on 4th down all night long. all night long. I mean, it was totally predictable they would go for two because they wanted to win that game right in that moment. Or do you think I'm wrong on that one?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think it was a couple of different situations and a couple of different coaches that played to their personality. Todd Bowles is more of a conservative coach. He's a defensive guy. There was weather in Kansas City. And so Todd made the decision to just keep playing and trust his team. Well, when you look at Zach Taylor, he's totally different. He's a gambler, to your point. He gone for it on fourth down all night long. All night long. And after the game, when somebody asked him about it, he said, we came to win.
Yeah.
And that's his personality. So I thought both coaches made the right decision to fit their personality in the way that they coach football. And both of them have been second guessed. Todd Bowles got criticized here in Tampa.
Yep.
Zach Taylor got criticized last night.
Yep.
Both teams lost. But that's the price you pay when you make those decisions. You got to be able to live with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. You mentioned Lamar playing better this year than last year, passing better this year than last year. We'll leave the playoffs out of it because the MVP has nothing to do with the playoffs. It's a regular season award. The one name that I think is not out there, that to me should be out there, is Jared Goff. I mean, he doesn't miss on any passes. They don't ask him to do a lot, but the Packers didn't ask Bart Starr to do a lot. I mean, Jared Goff's season so far seems close to perfect with that team, no?
I agree with you. And Jared Goff continues to have weeks where we say this. He's got more touchdowns than incompletions. Like, let that set in.
Yeah.
Like, we say that week after week about a quarterback. More touchdowns than incompletions. I think the combination of Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, and Jared Goff, the quarterback, is creating magic right now. He's got to be in the conversation. And I'm not going to be like everybody and put 7 people in the conversation. I think there are 2 or 3 guys in the conversation for most valuable player. I think Lamar Jackson is one. I think Jared Goff is another. Right now, those 2 guys are out front as far as having the best season that are impacting their teams toward winning. Now, there are some other guys that are playing great. However, like Patrick Mahomes, his team is winning, but he's not playing great. So I'm not going to put Patrick in the MVP conversation. I think today it will be a 2-horse race between Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson. I will give the edge to Lamar Jackson because he's having to do it with a defense that is very, very porous. And Jared Goff has a team that's built around him, and he's playing out of this world with that supporting cast.
I agree with all of that. And the thing about Mahomes is, whether you think he's the MVP this year or not, or having a bad year or good, no, he's the best player on the planet. Everybody understands that. He's the guy you want more than anyone else. That doesn't mean he's the MVP in this particular year, right? It's just the guy you would build the team around. Patrick Mahomes wouldn't do that.
I agree because universally what you say is he's the most talented player in our league.
Yes.
And I think even though he's made some mistakes, that you trust him more times than not, even with those mistakes. And I think that's what people look at because we've seen him do it time and time and time again. And I think that you would win more money betting on him to do it than lose in that situation.
I'd get you out of here on this. I know your alma mater is playing a big game. You and I talked about this yesterday on PTI. You don't think that a 3-loss team is going to get into the 12-team playoff at all? So this becomes an elimination game. Alabama, LSU. Who do you like in the game? Why?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's any secret who I like. Here's where I'll break the game down. LSU's defense is always going to be the key. I think the offense will put up points, especially if they can find some semblance of a running game. LSU's going to figure out a way to score points. LSU's defense was horrifically bad last year. They've gotten better this year, but it's always the Achilles heel. Can they force Jalen Muro, Alabama's quarterback, to make mistakes in which he's made in the games that they've lost? If you look at the Vanderbilt game, he threw a pick 6. If you look at the South Carolina game where he struggled, in that game he threw a couple of INTs. If you continue to look at them and how they play, when the quarterback struggles, their team continues to struggle. So I think that's what the game hinges on. I'm always going to pick LSU. I think the team has to show up to allow the greatest home field advantage in sports to come alive. Because if this game is close, as we go to the fourth quarter, that place, Tony, I don't know if you've ever been in there. It is the most magical place in a third and fourth quarter when that game is closed and the Tigers are playing. Magic comes alive. Now the team has to make it come alive, but there's no place like it in that situation.
Carville at the 50-yard line to rile up the crowd. That would be great. Thank you, Booger. We'll talk soon.
By the way, I normally just say goodbye, but at this point, I would like to make one request. Every time I come on, you guys play a song, and most of them I've never heard of in my life. So one of these times, the next time I come on, I'm going to make a request and pick the music. That is, if there's a theme, let me know, but I would like to pick the song that plays me in.
You can have walk-up music.
Yes.
Carville has walk-up music. You can have walk-up music. Thank you, Booger.
All right, later, fellas.
Booger McFarland, boys and girls. We'll take a break. Speaking of Carville, we'll have Carville and Ma when we return. Hopefully, I'm Tony Kornheiser.
You're listening to the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is the Rosetta Stone, Reed. Are you looking to learn a new language? Maybe like me, you're planning to go bungee jumping off of bridges all over the world, and you want to be able to talk to the locals before you go. If that's the case, then you want to use Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program, which is available on desktop or as an app, and it's the program that truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. Rosetta Stone has been a trusted expert for 30 years with millions of users, and 25 languages offered like Portuguese, Korean, Dutch, many more. Utilizing fast language acquisition, Rosetta Stone immerses you in many ways. There are no English translations, so you really learn to speak, listen, and think in that language. Plus, it's convenient with desktop and app options and an audio companion that gives you the ability to download lessons offline. Best of all, it's amazing value. Lifetime membership has all 25 languages for any and all trips and language needs in life. It's normally a $399 program, but with our code, you can get it just for $199. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a very limited time, our listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% at rosettastone.com/Tony today.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedy, celebrity interviews or news, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue. And guess what? Now you can call them on your auto insurance too, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. It works just the way it sounds.
Decided to bag Paul Evans for a while and use this fabulous tune by Johnny Adams, I Won't Cry. Is that related to the election result, or is it just a change of heart?
No, it's the way I feel about the United States.
Okay.
That's the expression of, the only best expression of the grief I feel, but we're talking about football today, so let's get on with the program.
Let's talk about football. You had a great week. You were 5-1 in football bets. You won all the college games. It was wonderful. 25-33 overall, but 5-1 is a great trend. What do you got for us this week?
I got West Virginia, Cincinnati, the Mountaineers getting 5.
West Virginia +5, you saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Take the Mountaineers.
Okay.
They'll absorb the Bearcats.
Okay.
North Texas and Army. North Texas is +4.5.
+4.5. North Texas against undefeated Army.
Right. I'm gonna take the points here.
Really?
Because I love Army. Yeah. They're not bad. I think that Army. Let's face it. They're undefeated against not very much.
Right.
This is one of my favorite colleges. It's underrated.
North Texas.
JMU at home laying 16 against Georgia State.
Well, hold on. Before that, James, you're taking Army in that? Because I was taking
North Texas.
No, North Texas.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I'm taking North Texas.
And I'm taking JMU -16 against Georgia State.
They've been good for a few years. Their coach.
Won as many games as anybody in the last 5 years.
You know, they lost their coach, Signetti, and he went to Indiana, where, he hasn't lost a game.
I can't believe Mike Tackett's a friend of mine. I can't believe it's not. Again, they had, Michigan they play Michigan, which would be a pretty good game. But not that much this year.
And then Ohio State after that. That's a tough two. What else?
South Kakalaki -4 at Vandy.
-4, Vanderbilt, you're going to take Carolina? Okay.
South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, on even. And Vanderbilt is even, and they're not a bad even, but if South Carolina puts it together, they're going to win that game pretty easily. This is a toilet bowl thing they've never won. The Jets -1 against Arizona. Take the Jets.
Take the Jets.
By the way, how good is Joe Burrow and Jane Daniels? Not even to mention Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, but we'll leave it at that.
These are great players, and in Joe Burrow's case last night, undone by his defense, and had Lamar Jackson lost, I would have said the same thing, undone by his defense. Right?
No, that was something, and those two guys are so freaking good.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Colts and Bills. Colts are getting 4.
Indianapolis +4. Yeah.
Yeah, that's too many. Take the Colts.
Take 2 Colts. Really? Okay.
And tap out. Triple play. Super Steam Special. On the way. San Francisco 49ers. Tampa Bay Bucks. Okay, what do we see here? My 49ers are -6 I got.
I would have said 5.5 on an early one, but maybe it's 6 now.
5.5. I'll take the 5.5, and let's go with the 49ers. We're going to be generous in the spirit because I'm not crying and I'm not shedding a tear.
Okay. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
James
You
Carville,
bet.
boys and girls. Yeah, I knew that was going to be a rough. Tuesday night was going to be rough. At half of the Carville household, probably all of the Carville household. Mary, in sympathy with James, would feel terrible about that. He had a triple play on Kamala Harris, but it was +240 or something. And if you gave her 240, she would have won because she already had 219 or something.
While we're waiting for Jeff to get on the line, can I share a Johnny O coat that is going to be set up for November and into the holidays?
Sure.
In celebration of your recent issues, we got TK Mothball. Get you ready for all those holiday balls.
Yeah.
Dress up mom, dad, the kids.
Yeah, TK Mothball, that's very, very good. I thought you would say TK colonoscopy, but that's a very long thing to spell. TK Mothballs, because Jeff is with us.
Yes, Jeff is with
All
us.
right, so let me read this. This week's picks with James Carville and Jeff Maher, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Jeff had a very good week. Jeff was 4-1, which means that Jeff over the last 2 weeks is 9-1. He is over 500 now, 25, 22-1. And before we get to the picks, I know you want to recap the election betting and talk about the neighbor poll, which I just learned about, which is very interesting.
Yeah, there was a French guy that, for notorious, he put, I don't know, about $30 million into the betting market and really moved the market in favor of Trump. And then after the election, he kind of came out and talked about his methodology. I guess he read one article or saw something about something called the neighbor poll, where instead of asking people who they're going to vote for, they ask people who they think their neighbor is going to vote for, and it sort of takes away this idea of anti-Trump bias, or where people aren't willing to admit they're going to vote for Trump. And so when he saw this, it piqued his interest, and he actually commissioned one of the polling organizations to go out and do a poll for him, just him, to find out people's neighbors are going to vote for it.
Well, there's a lot of money in that, but if you're going to bet $30 million, I guess you have a lot of money, right, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he did it, and this is like kind of the classic way to get an edge in betting, is have data that no one else has. And in this case, he had data that no one else had. He gave him the conviction to bet a lot on Trump.
Wow. That is a lot. That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
You're going to work all the angles, That's great. All right, what do you got for us this week?
We'll start in college. We're going to do 3 in college, 3 in the NFL. We're going to take Utah plus the 3 over BYU. BYU is obviously
Undefeated.
a team that is looking, like one of the top teams in the country, looking at potentially being in the college football playoff.
Yep.
Playing at Utah on what's considered like, a holy war kind of thing. Utah's defense is very good. Their offense is very bad. They're trying to get a 9th year out of Cam Rising.
The guy's 40 years old. Cam Rising gets hurt every year because he gets old age hurts.
Well, he actually did announce that he's not going to come back for his 8th year, so I think we may be done with Cam Rising. But if Utah can just muster enough offense, I think they can win this game. But plus this game, whoever loses this game is definitely not going to make it. I don't believe. But again, LSU at home. We talked about this on Best Props this week. We think they've got some of the best quarterback play so far this year. So again, plus the 3 at home.
Okay.
I'm going to take LSU.
What else?
And then we'll move on to a team that we talked about early on that's been in our podcast. We talked about Indiana bringing all these guys over from JMU and all this kind of stuff, and we're like, oh, what's going to happen with this Getty, this new coach? They're playing Michigan. I'm going to actually take Michigan in this game plus the 14. This is like a crazy. If this game had been played in week 1, this would have been Michigan minus 7 or so.
Yes.
There's a 21-point swing since the first week of the season, which seems like too much. Michigan still has 3 guys on their defense that are probably going to be first-round picks. I hope they get it together for this game. They've obviously played terribly, but getting 14 points is just too much for me to pass on.
They're getting 14 at the big house?
No, it's in
Indiana?
Yeah.
They're Indiana.
Okay.
I actually see it at 14 and a half when you want the extra.
Take it.
Absolutely.
Okay, 14 and a half. Wow, Michigan has never been an underdog like that. To Indiana? Come on, stop it. Okay, what else?
All right, and then the NFL, we're going to take the Commies again, minus 2.5 over Pittsburgh. Again, this is one that people I don't think are adjusting quick enough on the Commies. That their defense is much better than people realize, and their offense is elite. Again, we took them last week against the Giants. We're going to take them this week against Pittsburgh. See no reason to stop that trend.
Okay.
We're going to take the 49ers minus 6.5 over Tampa. This is just a situation where there's just Tampa played, overtime. They played a ton of plays last week. The rest advantage here is huge. The 49ers are off a bye. Tampa played on Monday night. That's why this line is as high as it is. But I think the 49ers come out of this bye, they get these right, and I think they blow out Tampa.
Okay. And one more?
And then I'm going to take the Dolphins in the one game I lost last week was betting against these Dolphins, who it seems like with Tua back, all signs are that they have a very elite offense. The only reason they actually lost that game was a Raheem Mostert fumble at the beginning of the second half that, the Bills could not stop them. I don't think the Rams will stop them either, and I think the Dolphins will win this game outright.
And they're getting points, right?
They're getting one at the Rams. I mean, the Rams are also a team that I think we can look to the back half of the season back because their defense is a little bit better than people thought, but I think in this spot, I do like the Dolphins.
If I were going to challenge that bet, I would challenge it by reminding you that last year, the Rams won 7 of their last 8 games to make the playoffs. They went from 3-6 to 10-7. So they've done this, what they're about to do this year, they have done before. But you take that into consideration, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, I do expect good things from them, but I think that this is a spot where this is the Dolphins' season. If they don't win this game, their season is pretty much over. So this is everything they're going to do is going to be to try to get this game. Again, I think it's just an elite offense against the Rams defense that's better, but not elite.
All right, plug Bet the Process. Tell us what's on this week.
Yeah, we actually talked about Rufus's election betting. He actually lost about $170,000 betting the election. So we talked a little bit about his process and whether it was a good process. And then we talked a little bit about the college football playoff rankings, and we talked actually about the decision that Todd Bowles made on Monday night where he didn't go for 2
Yes.
At the end of that game and gave the ball back to Mahomes. And I think what people don't understand about that decision is this real wrong decision there with calling that timeout with 37 seconds left when they got the first and goal to 1. So the last thing you want to do is have any time on that clock at the end of the game, and that's when you can maybe decide to go for 2. But turning the ball over to Mahomes, even down 1, is probably worse than doing it at even, because you're basically changing the way that Mahomes is going to play. He's a favorite at that point to maybe get a field goal.
So I take it then that you agree with the Cincinnati decision last night to go for 2 and win the game.
Again, this is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that ultimately this decision to go for 2 is not that simple when there's 30-some seconds left to go, because
right.
when you go for 2 and you get it, you make that other team much more aggressive. You make their play calling much more aggressive, and you're giving them a much more optimal chance to beat you in regulation. So everyone looks at the stuff and says, like, oh yeah, they should definitely go for it based on, like, you know, the other team. Like in the Kansas City case, they didn't actually, they went 3 and out when they got the ball back. Everyone looked at that, but if they were down 1 versus tied, their play calling would have been different. Right. People don't realize that that is a big part of this, right? So I don't think these decisions are as cut and dry as people think, ultimately. But yeah, obviously, you want to try to give yourself, you don't want to ever give yourself the option of, like, having Mahomes with the ball and a chance to beat you.
Right. I would say the same about Lamar Jackson at this point, but I would say it about Joe Burrow, and there are people that you don't want to give them the ball. Thank you, Jeff. We'll talk next week.
Okay, see you, Tony.
Jeff Ma, boys and girls. This week's picks with James Carville and Jeff Ma have been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more, and we will return with email and jingle. I am Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
This is a ZipRecruiter read. While there are many different types of offices out there, one thing's for certain. Choosing the right candidate for any office is a huge responsibility. Well, if you're hiring, you want to find the best candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. Right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Tony. How fast does ZipRecruiter's smart technology start showing your job to quality candidates, qualified candidates as well. Quality qualified. Easy to make that mistake. How soon? Immediately. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology works fast to find top talent, so you don't waste time or money. You can invite top candidates for your job to apply, to encourage them to apply sooner. Remember, if you want to find the right candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Just go to the... And now we all understand. Well, we had the number to pick. Looks like we finally clicked. Pure passion and he's oh so quick. On Sunday days you'll see it go down. Yeah, the kid is shaking up this town. Jade and Daniels, running out of trouble with his eyes down field. Jade and Daniels, tossing Hail Marys, man, this can't be real. Well, it seems like he can do anything, and pretty soon we're gonna get us a ring. 'Cause he's a rock star, balling hard, Heisman winning comeback, yeah, you know that he is. Jaden Daniels, yeah. Joe Arrow, it's absolutely brilliant. He concedes it's a parody of All My Friends Say by Luke Bryan, who's a big-time star. But he's a big-time star for us, Joe Arrow.
Yes, he is.
Big-time star. That is absolutely fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulous. Thank you, Joe. Bethesda Bagels?
Yes, Bethesda Bagels. We love them. You will as well. Just go to BethesdaBagels.com. Forward a location in the DC area nearest you. Then pop one in, my friend, and you will be thrilled.
That's it for us today. Before we get to the mailbag, let me just say there's sunshine, blue skies. Please go away. My girl has found another and going away. With her went my future. My life is filled with gloom. So day after day, I stay locked up in my room. I know to you, it might sound strange, but I wish it would rain. Those are the Temptations. That's a great song. That may be, along with My Girl, the best song they ever did.
Really good.
Thanks to our guests today, Booger McFarland, James Carville, Jeff Ma. Thanks as well to today's sponsors. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Odyssey. Get the show through Apple. Please leave us a review. Some business to take care of from Paulie Coconuts. Mission Road is participating in a big event this weekend. 2024 Rock for Vets. The Guitars for Vets Fall Fundraiser. It's Sunday, November 10th. All day this Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Lark Brewing in Aldie, Virginia. The musical lineup is Gary Smallwood. Mission Road is going to play from noon to 1. That's Paulie Coconuts' band. So you're invited to go. Aldie or Aldie, Virginia, A-L-D-I-E, all day long. All day long. Now, another thing. Courtney Wormuth sends this. I'm the Associate Athletic Director at Cortland State, located just up the road from Binghamton University, home of your high school pal, Gooch Pearsall. After working here for 12 years, I finally decided to take advantage of the academia world and ordered a course this fall. Let's not go crazy. I didn't sign up for organic chemistry or anthropology or even English. I chose the intellectually demanding outdoor recreational activities. On a field trip to the campus planetarium this week, we were fortunate enough to move class outside and enjoy a clear night sky, albeit 5:45 p.m., with a clear viewing of Jupiter, Saturn, and a bright waxing crescent moon. Yeah, upstate New York's not a lot of factories. You can see the sky.
Yeah.
I was standing near the back of the group in awe when a classmate muttered, "I mean, it's just the moon." I responded in exasperation, "Mr. Tony would be so disappointed." Of course, this 18-year-old looked at me like the crazy 40-year-old classmate that I am, and I provided zero explanation. One day he'll learn. While I have you, I'd like to extend an invitation to the 65th annual Cortica Jug football game at Cortland State on Saturday, November 16th, where the defending Division III national champions will host the Bombers of Ithaca in the biggest little title game in the nation. I'm sure Gooch will let you stay at his place. I've done that before. And I have keys to the stadium so I can set you up in the heated press box away from humans. I'll even treat you to Stewart's ice cream after the game, the best in upstate New York. They have 4 coffee flavors from you to choose from: brouhaha, cream and coffee, fudge, and espresso therapy. But since you're not a fan of schmutz, I recommend the original Colombian coffee. Kickoff is at noon, so be sure Nigel leaves early enough to account for the interminable construction on I-81. Isn't that nice? That's a lovely letter.
It is very nice.
It's really nice. And from Cal Patel. This is Cal Patel. I'm a producer at PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM Radio. I'm a big fan of the show and podcast. I have several connective tissues to the show, which I will get into in another email, including Leon Harris, Mike Lupica, and Steve Spurrier, and Steve Sands. But I wanted to alert the listeners that Jeff Ma, appearing on one of my host podcasts, Subpar, this past week, the host being Colt Knost. Colt Knost. He was a tour player and now he's on TV. He's on for 45 minutes and tells some amazing stories of gambling with some of the most famous athletes in the world. And she sent a link to this. That's really nice.
That is nice.
We'll talk to Jeff about that. Or we have talked to Jeff about
Yes,
that.
yes.
We take the show not in order sometimes. So,
Yeah.
we'll talk about him next week.
Yeah, we'll catch up with him next week about it.
Okay, here's a haiku from Chad about moths. $50 plus $95 equals the moths are laughing. From Jonathan Shapinsky, Beltsville, Maryland. There is a way to deal with moths. You can enlist the use of one of their natural predators, the parasitic wasp, specifically the Trichogramma wasp. Basically, you purchase wasp eggs, place them where they are needed, and let nature take its course. When the moths are gone, the wasps, they are tiny with a wingspan of 1/50th of an inch, have nothing else to eat and die. No more moths or wasps. If you want to read more, there's a link below as to where to buy them. I'm not going into a store and asking for wasps.
Yeah, that feels...
I'm not going to do that.
Feels dodgy.
From the great Robert Berg in Columbia, Maryland. On Friday's show, you explained that you hate moths with the passion of 1,000 suns. And I immediately thought to myself, what are suns passionate about exactly? The phrase you may have been reaching for is you hate moths with the white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns, which I first heard when Diane Chambers said it to Sam Malone right around the time I hit puberty. I would not usually quibble about such errors, except that you're also the guy who relentlessly criticized Matt Williams for saying he couldn't wait to get to DC, but had the temerity to wait a few weeks instead of, taking the next red eye out of town and moving into the Mayflower. P.S. I prefer every other version of the original theme to my own, but Mia's is my favorite. From Charlie Burtz in Springfield, Virginia. Are you considerate enough to wrap your sweaters in aluminum foil? The moths prefer them warm enough to at least have snug mothballs. Okay. From Dennis Murphy. On Monday's show, you were reporting the demise of horse racing. It brought to mind a movie our family has enjoyed countless times over the years. When our boys were young, we would visit Del Mar Racetrack to watch and bet the ponies. The movie is called Let It Ride. I have seen it.
Oh, yeah.
It starred Richard Dreyfuss and the recently deceased Terry Garr. Anyone who has visited a horse racing track can identify with almost all the characters in the movie. The only person I recall mentioning it was Eddie Olczyk during coverage of a Kentucky Derby. Rex Chapman probably has mentioned it as well. Anyway, it's one of those movies your family is regularly quoting dialogue. The family is regularly quoting dialogue. An underrated gem in my estimation. You could be walking around lucky and not even know it, and that's a quote from the movie.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Nick Sievers. As a huge horse racing fan, nothing can be more disheartening than to hear Mr. Hoffwaff himself telling me my favorite sport is dead. I will tell Mr. Tony horse racing has most certainly done its best to kill itself, but there are some small glimmers of hope of it not being completely forgotten. Post Time was the horse. That was George Malay's horse. Okay. And he ran a great second, and he was highly touted on many horse racing podcasts, and there's a link. I have seen the race. He comes on like gangbusters in the last eighth of a mile. If the horse races 60 yards longer, he's going to win the race. And since George bet him the show, and he placed, George made a bunch of money. I will also volunteer to be the officially remind Mr. Tony about horse races and/or official deliverer of horse racing results. He can text me anytime, and I'll tell him all the big races of the week ahead. We're entering a very slow time of the year until Santa Anita opens the day after Christmas. But Pete Rose's favorite track, Turfway Park outside of Cincinnati, opens December 4th. Also, please make sure to tell Ron Flatter to eat it. Oh, it's Ron Flatter. That's interesting. Stephen Fett, I do think your argument that Giannis is a coach killer has some merit. However, I will offer up what I believe has a much greater contribution to the downfall of this recent championship team. In late 2022, then-owner Mark Lasry agreed to sell the team to none other than Jimmy and Dee Haslam. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
That's right, the wonderful owners of the Cleveland Browns, a team with impeccable judgment. What has happened to my beloved Bucks since? Two coaches have been fired. Their selfless defensive leader, Drew Holiday, was traded to the Celtics, who, won the championship in his first year. A trade for the yappy Embiid makes little sense, which is exactly why it will happen. From John Andrews, the editor of South Dakota Magazine in Yankton, South Dakota. On the subject of unusual museums, allow me to introduce you to the International Vinegar Museum in Roslyn, South Dakota, population 190. The founder is Lawrence Diggs, who was living in San Francisco when he bought a house in South Dakota, hoping it would be a quiet summer home and writing retreat. He's now a permanent resident and has converted the town's former opera house into the Vinegar Museum. Diggs is widely regarded as an expert on vinegar. Before moving to South Dakota, he had researched the properties of vinegar in France, Egypt, Mexico, the Philippines, and Italy, and wrote a book, Vinegar, the user-friendly standard text reference and guide to appreciating, making, and enjoying vinegar. Can't believe I didn't buy that one. The town has gone all in on vinegar and hosts a vinegar festival every summer that culminates in the crowning of the Vinegar Court, comprised of Princess Pickle, Princess Vinaigrette, Princess Sour, and the Vinegar Queen. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Love this. If you're out on your bike tonight, everyone, as always, do wear white.
Let's try this. Your line. Just say it as I say it. Say your line exactly as I'm about to.
Okay, sure.
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so
All right, well, that was about perfect timing. Landing here at this airport that I can't quite remember the name of, but this is where we will take off next time on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I think we're still in Spain, but we are getting close to Portugal if we're not already there. So that's where we will continue next time on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020.